Chapter 222. I in the Elder Mansion of the Tool Pavilion. Hua Tianshu sat in the main seat with a serene expression, listening to Yi Xing's original words delivered by Chu Jingyue. Master is willing to let bygones be bygones and accept him as a disciple. It's his honor. How dare he refuse? He Hongjiao stood beside Hua Tianshu, looking indignant. She was very dissatisfied with Yi Xing's words. He doesn't know what's good for him. Hua Tianshu was nearly 50 years old, but she looked very young, like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Her skin was as white as snow and as smooth as jade. Her appearance was even more beautiful than her disciple, He Hongjiao. Moreover, Hua Tianshu had an indescribable temperament compared to He Hongjiao, which was more attractive. Hua Tianshu's mood was much calmer than He Hongjiao's. She always had a faint smile on her face. After hearing Chu Jingyue's words, Hua Tianshu laughed and waved to Chu Jingyue. Since he doesn't want to, let's forget about it. Jingyue, go back and continue to practice the marriage beauty skill. Raise your cultivation as soon as possible. Yes, master. I'll go now. Chu Jingyue excused herself and turned to leave. When Chu Jingyue left the hall, the smile on Hua Tianshu's face froze. Instantly, it became livid and gloomy. His master's grudge is Yi Xing's grudge. This guy is declaring war on me. He wants to seek justice for Zishan Ho and treats me as an enemy. Hua Tianshu whispered to herself. She snorted twice in one sentence. It could be seen that the smile on her face was just an act. In fact, her heart was burning with anger. He Hongjiao said, Master, you don't have to take it to heart. What can Yi Xing achieve in the future? I heard that his heavenly fate is only a 2-star red fate. This heavenly fate is at the bottom among ordinary warriors. He has only managed to reach his current level of cultivation by relying on opportunities and luck. It is true that his martial arts talent is monstrous, but his heavenly fate has determined that it will be difficult for him to achieve anything in his cultivation. Even if he has another opportunity in the future and is able to become a middle-level martial saint, that would already be heaven-defying. However, in Master's eyes, he is still an ant-like existence. If he dares to make an enemy out of Master, Master can crush him with a flip of his hand. Murderous intent flashed in Hua Tianshu's eyes as she said, He is not a threat, but he must die. He Hongjiao pondered for a moment before she shook her head and said, He's already the personal disciple of the Formation Elder, and the Formation Elder is about to leave the Starfall sect. It won't be easy to eliminate Yi Xing. The corners of Hua Tianshu's mouth curled up, revealing a sinister smile. It won't live for long. It won't be long before everything ends. As she spoke, the smile on Hua Tianshu's face grew wider and wider, and she looked extremely proud. He Hongjiao felt that there was a hidden meaning in Hua Tianshu's words. She didn't know what she meant when she said that everything would come to an end, but she could tell that Hua Tianshu was very happy at the moment. Her anger had already dissipated. After chuckling for a while, Hua Tianshu looked at He Hongjiao and said, Hongjiao, have you learned everything I taught you? He Hongjiao said solemnly, Thank you for your concern, Master. I've learned everything well. Don't worry, Master. Only you and I know what I've learned. I haven't revealed it to anyone else. Hua Tianshu nodded. Work hard. As long as you stay by my side firmly, you'll definitely become a great contributor in the future. You'll get whatever you want. If you leak the news, no one will tolerate you. You'll end up very miserably. He Hongjiao said seriously, I'll remember Master's teachings. The next day, the Formation Elder Lin Fenghua arrived at the Starfall sect. Sect Master Lu Tianyuan and his wife, Hua Tianshu, led many of the sect's higher-ups to the entrance of the sect to welcome the great contributors who had protected the Star Crystal Mine. As Lin Fenghua's disciple and daughter, Yi Xing and Lin Tongyu were naturally also in the welcoming party. This was Yi Xing's first time seeing Sect Master Lu Tianyuan and his wife, Hua Tianshu. Although they were far away, Yi Xing's super eyesight allowed him to see the two of them clearly at a glance. Lu Tianyuan should be around 50 years old. However, he looked very young, like a young man in his mid-20s. In real life, he had a lifespan of 200 years. His appearance was half of his real age. This was normal. As for Hua Tianshu, Yixing was a little surprised. She was so young that she looked like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Based on the convention that a real person's appearance was half of their real age, Hua Tianshu was close to 50 years old. She should look like a 24 or 25-year-old. There was still a big difference between a 17 or 18-year-old and a 24 or 25-year-old. Hua Tianshu had obviously cultivated a beauty cultivation technique. Therefore, she looked younger than her real age. As for Yixing, Hua Tianshu also glanced at him from afar. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, revealing a trace of disdain. The star crystal vein that Yixing had discovered was rich in minerals. According to estimates, there were at least 1 million of them. In such a rich vein, it was very likely that there were mid-grade star crystals in the depths. Middle-grade star crystals were 100 times more precious than low-grade star crystals. Arrays that were rank 3 and above required mid-grade star crystals. If this star crystal lode really contained mid-grade star crystals, then it would be a huge treasure trove. Lin Fenghua was the main reason why the Falling Star sect could protect the star crystal vein. If it weren't for Lin Fenghua's level 3 array, the Falling Star sect wouldn't have been able to protect the vein no matter how long Yixing could protect it. Because of Lin Fenghua's contribution, sect master Lu Tianyuan had personally come to the sect to welcome him back to show his respect. If it were other enlightened masters, they wouldn't have received such treatment. Not long after, a purple flame eagle appeared on the horizon. Yixing looked into the distance and saw the middle-aged man standing on the back of the purple flame eagle. It was his master, Lin Fenghua. The purple flame eagle grew bigger and bigger in everyone's eyes. Soon, it arrived in front of them and landed on the ground. Lin Fenghua jumped down from the eagle's back. Sect Master Lu Tianyuan greeted him with a smile. "Senior Martial Brother Lin, you've worked hard." Hua Tianshu followed beside Lu Tianyuan and also smiled. The East supporting sect has been defeated twice. First, it was because of the Grand Elder's strength, and second, it was because of Senior Martial Brother Lin's powerful array. This time, the sect was able to protect the Star Crystal Vein because of Senior Martial Brother Lin. The entire sect is grateful. "Welcome, Elder Formation." The other sect members bowed to Lin Fenghua in unison and congratulated her. Smiling, Lin Fenghua walked up to Lu Tianyuan and said, "Sect Master, I don't dare to accept such an honor. As a member of Feet, it is my responsibility to guard the Star Crystal Lode." Lin Fenghua then nodded at Hua Tianshu. "Thank you, Elder Hua." Lin Fenghua was obviously colder to Hua Tianshu than to Lu Tianyuan. Then, Lin Fenghua waved at the other sect members who came to greet him. "Everyone, this is too grand, please go back." Lu Tianyuan laughed loudly. "Ha! Senior Martial Brother Lin, I've already arranged a banquet in the Falling Star Hall. When you return, everyone will have gone back. Wouldn't it be too lively for you and me to drink cold wine? Don't go, let's go to the Falling Star Hall to welcome Elder Lin." Lin Fenghua couldn't refuse, so he called Yixing and Lin Tongyu over and brought them to the Falling Star Hall. In the Falling Star Hall, Lin Fenghua publicly announced that Yixing was his disciple. If it weren't for the life and death battle between Yixing and Xianxia yesterday, Lin Fenghua's announcement today would have shocked everyone. However, the news that Yixing was the Array Formation Elder's disciple had spread like the wind throughout the Falling Star sect. By now, there were only a few people who didn't know, so Lin Fenghua's announcement didn't cause much of a stir. At the banquet, the sect's upper echelons all toasted Lin Fenghua. Because of Lin Fenghua's presence, Yixing was also in the limelight at the banquet. Unlike yesterday when he occupied Xianxia, there were many sect disciples today who came to befriend Yixing under the instructions of their elders. In the sect's upper echelon's view, it was necessary to build a good relationship with Yixing and Lin Fenghua. Moreover, since Lin Fenghua had accepted Yixing as his disciple, Yixing must have a high talent in array formations. Perhaps, he would have some achievements in array formations in the future. If they were to face difficulties in the future, with the help of an array formation master, they might be able to walk out of the predicament easily. After the banquet, it was already afternoon. Yixing bid farewell to his master, Lin Fenghua, and went to the Elixir Pavilion. He found Elder Gong Yang Xian and received 18 low-grade elixirs, 3 clear spirit elixirs and 15 saint spirit elixirs. Gong Yang Xian's alchemy efficiency was indeed very high. When Yi Xing arrived, he gave all 18 low-grade elixirs to Yi Xing. Gong Yang Xian said, "You picked these spirit herbs from the same place, right? They are very close to each other. The clear spirit herb is more than 170 years old, and the 5 saint spirit herbs are more than 190 years old." Yi Xing nodded. Gong Yang Xian said, "When a spirit herb is more than 200 years old, it is considered a middle-grade spirit herb. Your spirit herbs are all close to 200 years old, especially the saint spirit herb, which is more than 190 years old. Its medicinal properties are very close to that of a middle-grade spirit herb. The saint spirit elixirs refined from it are very effective for cultivation. Even for a 4-star or 5-star martial sage, this is an excellent cultivation elixir." Many thanks, Elder Gong Yang. This time, Elder Gong Yang did not ask for a reward from me. If I obtain more spirit herbs in the future, I will definitely give them to Elder Gong Yang as a token of my gratitude. Yi Xing thanked Gong Yang Xian. 1 month later, he would try to enter the Fallen Star's secret realm. This was a sealed space. It was said that there were spirit herbs produced there. Gong Yang Xian refined 18 elixirs for him without asking for a reward. Yi Xing would naturally remember this kindness in his heart. If there was a chance in the future, he would repay Gong Yang Xian. "I will work hard." Gong Yang Xian smiled slightly and did not say much. After leaving the elixir pavilion, Yi Xing's heart was filled with sweetness. He was very happy. These 15 saint spirit elixirs were excellent cultivation elixirs for 4-star or 5-star martial sages. Now that he was only a 2-star martial sage, the effects were naturally better. Now that he was at the late stage of the 2nd-star vortex realm, it seemed that there was a great chance for him to break through to the 3rd-star martial sage realm within a month. Working hard to write, begging for a monthly ticket. Chapter 223. At night at Back Mountain. The black hole constellation appeared and darkness enveloped everything. Yi Xing swallowed an inferior-grade Saint Spirit pill and immediately felt a surge of astral power. Yi Xing circulated the pure Yuan skill and absorbed the medicinal energy in his body. At the same time, the black hole constellation produced a terrifying devouring power and absorbed the star origin energy in the universe. With these 2 factors, Yi Xing's cultivation speed was more than 10 times that of an ordinary person. The black hole constellation blocked all the fluctuations of stellar energy. Even though Yi Xing was absorbing a large amount of stellar energy, no one in the Falling Star sect could sense the fluctuation of stellar energy. Yi Xing cultivated until midnight before he stopped and returned to his residence to rest. During the day, he had to learn Array Dao from Lin Fenghua and cultivate the medium-grade martial spirit Heavenly Bat Steps. He could not stay up all night like when he was cultivating the Dark Spirit Spear art. Array Dao Elder's residence. Yi Xing and Lin Fenghua sat opposite each other. Lin Fenghua took out an array diagram and placed it between the 2 of them. "Today, I will teach you the grade 2 array, copper wall array." Yi Xing was puzzled. "Master, I have already learned the coiled snake array. Aren't you going to let me continue to practice the coiled snake array and reach a higher level?" Lin Fenghua shook her head and said, "Didn't you say that you want to fight for a spot in the Falling Star Secret Land? The Star Hall in the Falling Star Secret Land can only use trapping and defensive arrays. Killing and illusory arrays are prohibited. If you focus on comprehending the Copper Wall array, it will be helpful for you to break through the Star Hall." The Falling Star Secret Land was an enclosed space. It was vast, and in the middle of it, there was a Star Hall. The Falling Star skill that the founder of the Falling Star sect obtained came from the Star Hall. The Falling Star Secret Land opened once every 3 years, and each time it opened, it would be open for a month. After a month, the Star Hall in the middle of the Falling Star Secret Land would open and martial artists in the Secret Land could enter the Star Hall. According to the records, the Star Hall had a total of 3 levels. Every time one passed a level, one would obtain a corresponding reward. The higher the level, the better the reward. If one failed to pass a level, one would be teleported out of the Star Hall. After passing one level of the Starry Hall, there was still another level. The Starfall sect had been established for more than 700 years, but until now, no one had been able to pass the third level. Therefore, they had all failed in the Starry Hall and were sent out. As for whether or not one would be teleported out after passing the third floor, no one had experienced this before, so no one knew. In the following days, Yi Xing would learn the copper wall formation from Lin Fenghua during the day. Furthermore, every afternoon, he would take some time to practice the middle-tier martial spirit heavenly bat movement technique. At night, the darkness was his world. Yi Xing would sneak into the back of the mountain and use the black hole astrology and the Saint Spirit pill to cultivate quickly. Needless to say, Yi Xing's cultivation speed was 1,000 miles a day. The Saint Spirit pill was powerful. One Saint Spirit pill was enough for Yi Xing to cultivate for more than 3 days. He had 15 Saint Spirit pills, which was enough for him to cultivate for more than a month. As for learning the copper wall formation, Yi Xing was already a level 2 array master. He had the experience of mastering the level 2 coiling snake formation. In addition, his talent in array formations could be said to be heaven-defying, so his learning speed was extremely fast. As for the heavenly bat movement technique, Yi Xing's talent in martial arts was also very high. With the help of the superbrain, and his understanding of the wind force, which was very helpful to his cultivation of Qinggong martial arts, his cultivation speed was not slow. Array formations, cultivation, martial arts. In these 3 areas, Yi Xing was improving rapidly. If anyone knew about this, they would definitely be stunned and would prostrate themselves before him. With the array master Lin Fenghua, Yi Xing's safety in the Falling Star sect was guaranteed. No one dared to plot against him. What he needed to do every day was to wholeheartedly cultivate. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Yi Xing's cultivation was the first to break through. He reached the 3rd level of the Celestial Vortex realm and became a 3-star martial saint. With the breakthrough in cultivation, the strength of Yi Xing's celestial essence increased greatly. His strength also improved greatly. After becoming a 3-star martial saint, Yi Xing could be said to have a well-thought-out plan to enter the Falling Star secret realm. With his dark spirit spear art at the small success realm, since he did not use astrology, he did not fear any of the 4-star martial saints among the core disciples of the Falling Star sect. A few days later, Yi Xing's cultivation of array formations had also made qualitative progress. He finally succeeded in setting up the copper wall formation for the first time, reaching the entry level. Although he had the experience of learning a level 2 array formation, Yi Xing had learned a level 2 array formation in less than 20 days. This still shocked Lin Fenghua. With Yi Xing's speed of progress in array formations, it would not take long for him to catch up with his master. There was no end to martial arts. There was no end to array formations. After Yi Xing became a 3-star martial saint, he continued to cultivate. After learning the copper wall formation, he continued to practice array formations. In comparison, the heavenly bat movement technique was the last to break through among the 3. After a total of 27 days, Yi Xing finally reached the entry level of the heavenly bat movement technique. The heavenly bat movement technique was a middle-grade spiritual martial art. Even at the entry level, its speed was extremely fast. It was equivalent to the large success realm of a lower-grade spiritual martial art. Together with the wind, its speed was even faster. After becoming a martial saint, Yi Xing's light body technique had become his weakness. In terms of speed, Yi Xing could only rely on the wind. Without the spiritual martial art light body technique, he could only rely on the wind. Although his speed was not slow, it was not outstanding. And now, speed would be Yi Xing's greatest strength. Not to mention a beginner martial saint, even a middle-grade martial saint would not be able to compete with Yi Xing in terms of speed. In 3 days, the Fallen Star secret territory would open. This was a major event that only happened once every 3 years in the Falling Star sect. Although only the core disciples were qualified to enter, it still received the attention of most of the people in the Falling Star sect. As the main characters entering the Fallen Star secret territory, Each core disciple was naturally excited as they waited for the day when the fallen star's secret territory opened. According to the rules of Thief, a disciple was over 25 years old, they would be promoted to a deacon, a noble, or an elder according to their cultivation. Therefore, the core disciples were all under 25 years old. In order to become a core disciple, most of them had to be over 20 years old. Some geniuses were around 18 or 19 years old. Therefore, many core disciples only had 2 chances to enter the fallen star's secret territory in their lifetime. Only a few geniuses had 3 chances. Therefore, every core disciple placed great importance on entering the fallen star's secret territory. Time passed quickly, and it was the day before the fallen star's secret territory opened. Ma Ji had been living a carefree life recently. Since the fallen star's secret realm was about to open, and he had the qualifications to enter the fallen star's secret realm, he used the promise of giving each of them a low-grade spirit herb to get 2 good-looking inner court female disciples into his bed. As soon as Ma Ji thought of the 2 female disciples' exquisite figures, he felt extremely satisfied. Today, he had found a 3rd female disciple with good looks. As a core disciple, he was already adored by the female disciples of the inner sect. Coupled with the promise of a low-grade spirit medicine, it was not difficult to get them to sleep with him. Judging from the female disciples' attitude toward him today, it was certain that he would get them into his bed. However, as Ma Ji was on his way to his residence with the female disciple, he was stopped by Yi Xing. As soon as Ma Ji saw Yi Xing, his good mood instantly vanished. His face turned cold as he said, "A good dog does not block the way. Get lost." Yi Xing had made a name for himself among the inner disciples after killing Xianxia. In addition, he was the core disciple of the formation elder, thus the inner disciples were respectful toward him. The female disciple beside Ma Ji did not dare to be arrogant when she saw Yi Xing. She respectfully greeted him, "Senior brother Yi." Yi Xing nodded calmly. His gaze landed on Ma Ji as he said, "I challenge you. Do you have the guts to fight with me in the dueling arena?" Ma Ji was stunned. He carefully sized up Yi Xing and then frowned. "Your cultivation has made another breakthrough. You have become a 3-star martial sage. How is this possible?" Yi Xing had become a martial sage because of the star crystal spiritual essence. Moreover, he had made consecutive breakthroughs to become a 2-star martial sage. The disciples of the Falling Star sect were envious and jealous of him. Therefore, all the disciples thought that Yi Xing had become a martial sage because of his good fortune. It would be impossible for him to improve his cultivation in the future. However, how long had it been? Yi Xing's cultivation had made another breakthrough and he had become a 3-star martial sage. This of course shocked Ma Ji. He could not believe it. The female disciple beside Ma Ji also widened her eyes in disbelief. She looked at Yi Xing as if she was looking at a monster. Yi Xing smiled faintly. "But, are you afraid that I have become a 3-star martial sage? Aren't you a little too cowardly?" Ma Ji snorted coldly and shouted, "Do you think I am afraid of you? I have wanted to beat you for a long time. Today, you have delivered yourself to me. How can I not beat you up? Let's go to the battle arena." The gap between a 3-star martial sage and a 4-star martial sage was bigger than the gap between a 2-star martial sage and a 3-star martial sage. 2- and 3-star martial sages were beginner martial sages. As for 4-star martial sages, they were intermediate martial sages. There was a gap between 3- and 4-star martial sages in terms of cultivation and strength. Although Yi Xing had killed Xianxia when he was a 2-star martial sage, now that Yi Xing had become a 3-star martial sage, Ma Ji was not afraid of him. The reason why he was shocked was because Yi Xing's cultivation had increased too quickly. He was not afraid of Yi Xing's strength. Yi Xing had expected Ma Ji to accept the challenge. He curled his lips and revealed a smile of success. Then he walked toward the inner square. If Yi Xing wanted to enter the Falling Star secret land, he had to prove that he was not weaker than the core disciples. Therefore, he had to challenge someone. Since he had to challenge someone, Yi Xing would naturally challenge the person he wanted to beat the most. Among the core disciples, Yi Xing wanted to beat Ma Ji the most. This was because after Yi Xing had killed Xianxia in the life and death arena, Ma Ji had rushed to the life and death arena and attacked him. Although he did not hurt Yi Xing physically, he had angered Yi Xing mentally. That day, Yi Xing was only a 2-star martial sage and did not want to reveal his astrology. Therefore, he was afraid of Ma Ji. Now, Yi Xing was a 3-star martial sage and had mastered the heavenly bat steps. His strength was not the same as before. Even if he did not use his astrology, he was confident that he could defeat Ma Ji. Since this was the case, Yi Xing naturally chose Ma Ji as his opponent. Chapter 224. Not long after, Yi Xing and Ma Ji arrived at the inner court plaza. Yi Xing's challenge to Ma Ji was heard by other disciples. It was a big deal for an inner court disciple to challenge a core disciple. The disciples who heard the news quickly ran to the inner court plaza and spread the news. In such a short time, many disciples had already rushed to the inner court plaza. Moreover, it just so happened that 2 inner court disciples who were not on good terms with each other were dueling on the battle arena. Many inner court disciples had already gathered in the inner court square. When Yi Xing and Ma Ji arrived, the outcome of the duel had just been decided. When the inner court disciples who were about to leave heard that Yi Xing and Ma Ji were going to duel on the battle stage, their eyes lit up and they all stopped in their tracks. Not to mention how shocking it was for an inner court disciple to challenge a core disciple, just the fact that Yi Xing was going to challenge someone was enough to attract everyone's attention. He was obviously a 2-star heavenly fate realm cultivator with low cultivation talent. However, his martial talent was shockingly high. When he first entered he rose to become the first in the outer court. After becoming an inner court disciple for a month, he killed Xianxia, one of the top 10 inner court disciples, on the life and death arena. Yi Xing was recognized as a dark horse by all the disciples of the Falling Star sect. Everything related to him was something that all the disciples were interested in. Moreover, the person Yi Xing was challenging this time was Ma Ji, a core disciple. Countless disciples were looking forward to this battle. It was a pity that Yi Xing and Ma Ji went to the battle stage as soon as they arrived at the inner court plaza. If they waited for half an hour, the inner court plaza would be filled with people. The number of people would definitely not be less than when Yi Xing and Xianxia dueled a month ago. It's only been a month. Senior brother Yi is actually challenging a core disciple. Senior brother Ma Ji's cultivation is at the peak of the 4th level of the celestial vortex realm. Among the 4-star martial saints, his strength is first class. Senior brother Yi actually dares to challenge him? Did he take the wrong medicine? Yeah. Senior brother Ma Ji is not like Xianxia. A 4-star martial saint is far from being comparable to a 3-star martial saint. This is the difference between an intermediate martial saint and a beginner martial saint. What do you know? Senior brother Yi Xing's cultivation had already broken through to the 3rd level of the celestial vortex realm. When he was a 2-star martial saint, he had killed Xianxia without using his astrology. Now, he was already a 3-star martial saint. With his understanding of the force of darkness and the dark spirit spear technique, how many 4-star martial saints could match him? Don't tell me I'm not qualified to fight senior brother Ma Ji? What? 3rd level of Star Vortex Realm? My God, senior brother Yi Xing is really a 3-star martial saint. How is this possible? Didn't senior brother Yi Xing rely on the astral crystal spiritual essence to become a martial sage? His heavenly fate is only a trashy 2-star scarlet fate. How could he have broken through to become a 3-star martial saint so quickly? Below the duel stage, the inner court disciples were discussing fervently, exclaiming one after another. All the inner sect disciples knew how difficult it was to cultivate in the Star Vortex realm. Most of them were geniuses in the martial saint heavenly fate realm. In the 9th level of the Star Tempering realm, their cultivation speed was extremely fast. At a young age, they had already become martial saints, which was a legend to ordinary martial artists. However, after breaking through the Star Vortex realm and becoming a martial saint, their cultivation speed began to slow down. Most of them could not break through to the next level in 1 or 2 years. They felt that they were very far away from becoming a middle martial saint. As for Yi Xing, The reason why he had become a martial sacred was because he had absorbed the star crystal spiritual essence, allowing him to reach the heavens in a single bound. As such, the inner disciples of the Falling Star sect looked down on Yi Xing in the beginning. However, after meeting Yi Xing, they had a whole new level of respect for Yi Xing. After becoming an inner sect disciple for only a month, he had killed Zhen Qiusi, one of the top 10 inner sect disciples. All the inner sect disciples were deeply shocked. They no longer dared to look down on Yi Xing. Instead, they were in awe of him. They had thought that although Yi Xing was powerful, his cultivation talent was low. It would be difficult for him to improve his cultivation in the future. Therefore, he could only shine among the inner sect disciples. However, after only a month, Yi Xing's cultivation had broken through and he had started to challenge the core disciples. This was naturally out of the inner sect disciples' expectations. They were all shocked and could not believe it. In the duel arena, Yi Xing stood with the purple feather spear in his hand. His aura was like a towering mountain. He stood there as if he wanted to hold up the entire sky. On the other hand, Ma Ji held a spiritual weapon in his hand. Its aura was so sharp that it cut in all directions as if it wanted to shatter everything. The auras of the two of them were tit for tat. The spear aura was heavy and the sword aura was sharp. The two of them were engaged in an intense battle. After the two of them entered the duel arena, they did not say a word. Their intense auras collided. The battle between the two of them had already begun. The spear aura was as heavy as a mountain. Even though Ma Ji's sword aura was sharp, it could not break through Yi Xing's aura at all. After only 7 or 8 breaths, Ma Ji gave a loud shout. His sword was like a ray of light as he launched a substantial attack on Yi Xing human sword, Monarch Sword. The sword technique that Ma Ji practiced was the lower-grade spiritual martial technique, 3-talon sword technique. The 3-talon sword technique was divided into heaven, earth, and human swords. The heavenly Tao was unpredictable. The earth was thick. The human Tao was the king. The monarch sword was the ultimate technique of the human sword, the most powerful sword. Ma Ji's 3-talon sword technique had already been cultivated to the great success stage. All kinds of sword moves, even the ultimate techniques, could be performed smoothly as if the conditions were right. When he stabbed out with his sword, it was as if the monarch was pointing at the mountains and rivers. It was unstoppable and intimidating in all directions. Indeed, Ma Ji hated Yi Xing to the core. His first attack was an ultimate technique. He attacked with all his strength and wanted to use a thunderous method to severely injure Yi Xing. This was not the life and death arena. Naturally, Ma Ji did not dare to kill Yi Xing in a duel. However, the sword had no eyes. It was unavoidable to be injured in a duel. Since Yi Xing had entered the duel arena, he had to leave a deep memory for Yi Xing. Below the duel arena, everyone present were inner disciples. There was not a single core disciple. Their cultivation was lower than Ma Ji's. Facing Ma Ji's monarch sword, they all felt a chill on their necks and in their hearts. However, the true target of this monarch sword, Yi Xing, had a calm expression. He did not show any fear. On the contrary, there seemed to be a faint mocking smile on the corner of his mouth. Yi Xing suddenly stabbed out with his spear. The spear was like a dragon. It was like a needle against an awn as it charged towards Ma Ji. With a piercing sound, a hole was instantly pierced through the air. The purple feather spear carried the power of darkness and contained an extremely terrifying power. It accurately pierced the tip of Ma Ji's spirit weapon sword. Clang! The spear and sword collided and sparks flew. However, Ma Ji could not appreciate the splashing sparks. Instead, he was enveloped by the terrifying power of darkness. Everything in front of him turned black. The spirit weapon sword in his hand trembled and an extremely terrifying power was transmitted over. Ma Ji's attack instantly collapsed. As if his body had suffered a heavy blow, he was instantly catapulted backwards. In a head-on clash, Ma Ji was defeated in one move. Below the duel arena, a wave of incredulous exclamations came. Previously, there were many disciples who were surprised that Yi Xing dared to challenge Ma Ji. It was obvious that they doubted Yi Xing's strength. Now, It seemed that Yi Xing's strength was much more terrifying than they had imagined. Compared to Ma Ji, in terms of strength, he was even stronger. After all, Ma Ji was a top 4-star martial saint. Not only had he mastered the 3-talent sword art, he had also mastered the flying crane steps, an inferior grade spirit martial art. He was only half a step away from mastering it. In the blink of an eye, Ma Ji controlled his body while flying backwards. He did not get thrown out of the duel arena by Yi Xing's spear. His body fell and landed steadily on the edge of the duel arena. This is definitely not the entry-level Dark Spirit Spear art. Could it be your Dark Spirit Spear art has reached the small success stage? Ma Ji landed on the ground. He still had a lingering fear from Yi Xing's spear attack. He looked at Yi Xing and exclaimed in disbelief, "Dark Spirit Spear art, small success stage?" Below the duel arena, all the martial saints sucked in a breath of cold air. If they were given any middle-grade spirit martial art, it would be difficult for them to master it to the entry level. However, Yi Xing had mastered it to the small success stage. Furthermore, he had mastered the Dark Spirit Spear art that no one in the Falling Star sect had been able to master for more than 700 years. What kind of martial art talent was this? Everyone's hearts trembled. This was simply inconceivable. Pointing the purple feather spear at Ma Ji, Yi Xing still had a faint smile on his face as he said, "What? Are you afraid of the small success stage of the Dark Spirit Spear art? Do you want to admit defeat? Senior brother Ma Ji." Yi Xing emphasized the words, "Senior brother Ma Ji." Everyone could hear the meaning behind Yi Xing's words. If Ma Ji admitted defeat because of fear, then as a core disciple of the senior brother, he would lose all his face. Chapter 225. Ma Ji's face turned ashen. He was extremely fearful of the Dark Spirit Spear technique at the initial stage. The middle stage spiritual martial force was extremely powerful. It was comparable to the advanced stage of the lower stage. If it was the initial stage of the middle stage, its power would be even more terrifying and would be comparable to the perfect stage of the lower stage. Although the martial arts were only divided into the initial stage, advanced stage and perfect stage, besides the perfect stage, the first 3 stages were in fact 3 stages. Within the same stage, there would be differences in martial arts attainment. Also, the higher the stage, the greater the difference. Under the situation where martial artists were the same in all other aspects, they would all be at the advanced stage of the lower stage. However, those with high attainment could defeat those with low attainment in one move. There was such a huge difference. Yi Xing's Dark Spirit Spear technique was comparable to the perfect stage of the lower stage. Ma Ji's 3-talent sword technique had only reached the advanced stage. The power was incomparable. Thus, of course, Ma Ji was fearful of Yi Xing's Dark Spirit Spear technique. However, with Yi Xing's words, Ma Ji did not have the face to admit defeat. Besides, although Ma Ji had the thought of admitting defeat, it only flashed across his mind. Even without Yi Xing's reminder, as a core disciple, Ma Ji would not admit defeat in front of Yi Xing just because of a slight setback. This was not only related to his dignity as a core disciple, it was also related to the pride in his heart. He would never believe that he would lose to Yi Xing, whom he viewed as dirt. Ma Ji snorted angrily, "Admit defeat? The combat power of a martial artist is not only about who has more power, but also techniques and changes. You think you can win against me with the initial stage of the Dark Spirit Spear technique? Don't even think about it." As soon as he finished speaking, Ma Ji's speed was extremely fast, like a crane soaring in the sky. His body floated unpredictably as if he had changed his position. Instantly, many afterimages of Ma Ji appeared on the battle stage. Whoosh! Ma Ji attacked with his sword again, and the sword light was resplendent. Different from the aggressive human sword, Emperor Sword, from before, Ma Ji's sword technique floated unpredictably like his body and was as fast as flowing light. The sword light spat out and each sword attack came at Yi Xing from unexpected angles. It was the sky sword technique of the 3-talent sword technique. The Heavenly Dao. The Heavenly Sword was also known as the Impermanence Sword. Swordsmanship was all about variations and winning by surprise. Between two ordinary people, one only had a strength of 100 gene, while the other had a strength of 200 gene. With such a huge difference in strength, it was obvious that the one with 200 gene of strength was stronger. However, if these two ordinary people were to have a battle of life and death, the one with the strength of 200 pounds would definitely not be the winner. Although he had a high chance of winning, the one with the weaker strength still had a chance of killing the one with the stronger strength. This was true between ordinary people, and it was also true between martial artists. The dark spirit spear technique was powerful, but it didn't mean that the stronger the spear, the more one would win. However, a martial artist's reaction speed was thousands of times stronger than an ordinary person's. The gap between them would also be magnified. Those who were powerful were usually stronger in other aspects. Therefore, if a martial artist with weak power wanted to defeat a powerful martial artist, the chances of winning against a powerful martial artist were even smaller than if a normal person had weak power. In the face of Ma Ji's ever-changing sword techniques, Yi Xing held his spear and stood as still as a mountain. Regardless of the opponent's ever-changing moves, I will remain still. No matter how fast Ma Ji's sword techniques were, he had to hit Yi Xing before he could hurt him. However, Xing stopped his attacks by remaining still. He ignored all the tricks from afar. Once an attack came close, he would sweep, stab, flick, or smash with the purple feather spear in his hand. Regardless of whether it was the sword or the sword gleam, they would all be repelled. When he executed the dark spirit spear technique, his speed became faster and faster. It turned into a dark spear screen that guarded his surroundings. No matter how Ma Ji attacked, he could not break through. Although the dark spear screen had a defensive effect, it was not the defensive spear technique of the dark spirit spear technique. Instead, it was a dark brilliance that Yi Xing formed naturally to block his opponent's attacks. Due to the power of darkness, it looked like a pitch-black screen. At this moment, Yi Xing did not use his super brain to scan his opponent's attacks. He only relied on his reaction speed and martial arts attainments to fight with Ma Ji to improve his fighting instincts. Ma Ji's attacks were like a storm. His sword gleams were endless. However, Yi Xing stood tall like a mountain. He waved the purple feather spear and defended himself from all directions. No matter how Ma Ji's swordsmanship changed, no matter how profound it was, it could not penetrate Yi Xing's defense. Ma Ji's figure and sword gleams were everywhere on the dueling platform. The spectating martial sages could barely see Yi Xing's figure. They could only tell from the blurry figure that Yi Xing had not moved from his original spot. The two of them fought with speed. Before long, they had exchanged more than 10 moves. In the beginning, Ma Ji could not threaten Yi Xing. The more he fought, the angrier he became. However, after more than 10 moves, Ma Ji's heart grew colder. With Yi Xing's defense, even if he practiced the impermanent sword for a year, he would not be able to break through. In this duel, Yi Xing stood on the undefeated side. Moreover, Yi Xing stood still and consumed less celestial essence. When Ma Ji used the impermanent sword, he also used the soaring crane steps, which consumed a lot of celestial essence. If the fight went on for a long time, he would be defeated by Yi Xing's counterattack once his celestial essence was exhausted. After 50 moves, Ma Ji changed his mind and did not want to fight anymore. Now that the two of them were tied, and it seemed that he was suppressing Yi Xing, it was the right time to stop. The minor success of the dark spirit spear technique is indeed extraordinary. Yi Xing, it seems that our strength is on par. It will be difficult for me to defeat you today. In the battle, Ma Ji said loudly. He said this to give himself a way out. Then, after 3 to 5 moves, he stopped and ended the fight in a draw. In this way, it would be difficult for Ma Ji to defeat Yi Xing. Therefore, it was reasonable for them to end the fight in a draw. Although others would be shocked by Yi Xing's strength, Ma Ji would not lose face. Ma Ji wanted to end the fight in a draw, but Yi Xing did not think so. When Yi Xing heard Ma Ji's words, he knew what Ma Ji meant. He suddenly laughed. "You and I are on par? Ha!" Whoosh! While laughing, Yi Xing's figure moved instantly. Middle rank spiritual martial art, Heavenly Bat Steps. Heavenly Bat Steps was a middle rank spiritual martial art. Even if it was only at the entry level, Its speed was shocking. A low-rank spiritual martial art needed to be cultivated to the great success realm to have such speed. And Ma Ji's soaring crane steps had not been cultivated to the great success realm. He was only close to it. Naturally, he was slower than Yi Xing's heavenly bat steps. Moreover, when Yi Xing used the heavenly bat steps, he had integrated the wind into it. It was as if the wind was created by the wings and his speed increased explosively. Ma Ji was using the soaring crane steps. As he moved rapidly, his position kept changing. However, Yi Xing's speed was much faster than his. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of him. The purple feather spear carried a dark light and swept over in an instant. Undercurrent surged. This spear did not seem to be fast. In fact, when he reacted, it was already impossible to dodge. Ma Ji was greatly shocked. He had never expected that Yi Xing would have such speed. This meant that if Yi Xing wanted to defeat him, he could do so anytime. In a hurry, a ray of starlight rushed out from between Ma Ji's eyebrows and turned into a green star that floated in the sky. A large amount of star power fell down and enveloped Ma Ji. Under the support of the star power, Ma Ji's strength multiplied. The spiritual weapon sword in his hand exploded with bright starlight and instantly blocked in front of the purple feather spear. Clang! When the spear and sword collided, there was an earth-shattering explosion. The terrifying power of the dark spirit spear art, which was at the small success realm, was fully displayed at this moment. Even if Ma Ji used the star power, he could not block Yi Xing's move. In the explosion, the spiritual weapon sword was almost bent into a crescent shape by the purple feather spear. In an instant, Ma Ji's body was sent flying by the huge force from the sword. After flying for dozens of meters, Ma Ji fell to the ground. He tasted something sweet in his throat and a mouthful of blood surged up. Fresh blood rushed to his mouth, but Ma Ji forcefully swallowed it back. He was a dignified core disciple, yet he was sent flying by a third-level star vortex stage inner disciple spear. This was already a great humiliation. If he were to spit out more blood, it would be even more humiliating. However, even though he swallowed the blood back, there was still a trace of blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth. This proved that he was injured. Whether Ma Ji vomited blood or not, the inner disciples no longer paid attention to it. At this moment, they were all dumbfounded. Yi Xing had defeated Ma Ji. Didn't this mean that Yi Xing's strength had surpassed all the inner disciples and was at the same level as the core disciples? Moreover, with Ma Ji's strength as a standard, even among the core disciples, Yi Xing's strength was above average. Chapter 226. Ma Ji got up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His face was flushed red. As a core disciple, Ma Ji was a genius among the geniuses of the Falling Star sect. Furthermore, his older brother, Ma Ren, was the personal disciple of the Falling Star sect's sect master. Furthermore, he was the #1 genius of the Falling Star sect's younger generation. With this relationship, Ma Ji's reputation among the Falling Star sect's disciples soared to the sky. Ma Ji, who had always been proud and arrogant, had never been in such a sorry state. At this moment, he wished that there was a crack in the ground for him to crawl into. He no longer had the face to stay here. He glanced at Yi Xing with resentment and quickly left. Yi Xing even dared to declare war against Hua Tianshu, so how could he care less about Ma Ji's malice towards him? The corners of his mouth curled up as he left the arena and quickly left. With the battle record of defeating core disciple Ma Ji and the suggestion of formation elder Lin Fenghua, Yi Xing would definitely obtain a spot to enter the Fallen Star secret realm. It wasn't until Yi Xing and Ma Ji left that the inner disciples recovered from their shock. They looked at the backs of the two and exclaimed, My eyes aren't playing tricks on me, right? Senior brother Ma Ji was really defeated? Oh my god! Senior brother Ma Ji is considered to be in the upper middle among the core disciples. He actually lost to senior brother Yi Xing? How long has it been? Senior brother Yi Xing's strength has already reached the level of a core disciple and is in the upper middle. Is senior brother Yi Xing really a 2-star heavenly fate realm? Have you seen such a monstrous 2-star heavenly fate realm? Thinking about senior brother Yixing's rise, it's really shocking. How long has it been since he entered the sect? Including the time he spent in the outer sect, it's only been a few months. It's simply too monstrous for him to achieve such an achievement. I'm afraid there's no senior in the Falling Star sect who has such a fast growth speed, not even the enlightened Heavenly Fate Realm seniors. And senior brother Yixing is only an ordinary Heavenly Fate Realm cultivator. This is really unbelievable. Yixing's rise was indeed unbelievable. In the history of there had never been such a heaven-defying character like him. If he was an enlightened being Heaven's mandate genius, then everyone would naturally be able to accept it. However, Yixing was only an ordinary Heaven's mandate, and he was at the bottom of ordinary Heaven's mandate, a 2-star Crimson Fate. The Fallen Star Secret Land will open tomorrow. Senior brother Yixing's strength has already surpassed many of the core senior brothers. I wonder if the sect will allow him to enter the Fallen Star Secret Land. After a round of discussion, some disciples discussed whether or not Yixing had entered the Falling Star Mystic Realm, and the answer was yes. After Yixing defeated Ma Ji, he reported to the Formation Elder, Lin Fenghua. Lin Fenghua immediately went to Sect Master Lu Tianyuan and brought up the matter. With a record of defeating a core disciple and a recommendation from the Formation Elder, Lu Tianyuan didn't even hold a meeting with the elders. Instead, he agreed immediately and made an announcement within the sect. On that day, everyone in the Falling Star sect knew that the Fallen Star Mystic Realm would open tomorrow, and an exception would be made for inner disciple Yixing to enter. Furthermore, everyone in the Falling Star sect also knew that Yixing had defeated Ma Ji in the duel arena. In the Yixing's reputation was completely shaken. Whether it was winning first place in the outer sect or defeating Xianxia Temple in the inner sect, Yixing's reputation wasn't as resounding as this time. A core disciple was already the highest rank in the Falling Star sect. Yixing had defeated Ma Ji, which meant that he had stepped into the ranks of the strongest disciples in the Falling Star sect. Although he wasn't the strongest disciple, it was enough to earn the respect and worship of all the inner and outer sect disciples. In particular, Yixing had only been in the Falling Star sect for a few months. This added a layer of legendary color to Yixing. Speaking of Yixing's experience in this was simply a legendary story. Only in legends would there be such a monstrous genius who rose so quickly. However, the disciples of the Falling Star sect were very clear that Yixing's Heavenly Fate Realm was very low. He was only a 2-star Crimson Life Realm cultivator. This was something that Yixing had passed the test in the Purple Mountain Academy. It was precisely because he was only a 2-star Crimson Life Realm cultivator that Yixing's speed of growth was even more legendary. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable things were legendary. This was the difference between legendary and ordinary deeds. Falling Star Sect, Weapon Pavilion Elder's Residence. He Hongjiao reported the news of Yixing defeating Ma Ji and obtaining the qualifications to enter the Falling Star Mystic Realm to Weapon Pavilion Elder Hua Tianshu. Speaking of this, He Hongjiao was incomparably surprised and shocked. Hearing this, Hua Tianshu's gaze changed frequently. She was secretly shocked. Yixing actually became a 3-star martial saint so quickly and even defeated Ma Ji. It was truly unbelievable. Just what kind of luck does this kid have? Or perhaps, there was a secret that no one knew about? Otherwise, how could he grow so quickly when his cultivation talent is obviously poor? It's really hard to imagine. Hua Tianshu secretly said to herself, people with luck will sooner or later spoil things. It seems that the sooner this kid is eliminated, the better. Isn't he going to enter the Falling Star Mystic Realm this time? Thinking of this, Hua Tianshu's expression froze, and the killing intent in her eyes disappeared in a flash. After He Hongjiao finished her report, she stood aside with her head lowered, not daring to speak. Hua Tianshu raised her hand, and a black shuttle half the size of a palm appeared in her hand. She threw it toward He Hongjiao. He Hongjiao caught it with both hands and felt the aura of the black shuttle. She said in surprise, "Master, this is a forbidden weapon?" Hua Tianshu nodded and said, "This is a forbidden weapon equivalent to a middle-grade spiritual weapon. It's called the Soul-Severing Shuttle. Although it's not the best, it has no problem killing a 7-star martial saint. Yi Hongjiao gasped, and her hands, which were holding the soul-severing shuttle, trembled slightly. A 7-star martial saint was an advanced martial saint who could be conferred the title of Marquis. This little soul-severing shuttle could actually kill a 7-star martial saint? Although Yi Hongjiao was surprised, she did not doubt it at all. A forbidden weapon equivalent to a middle-grade spiritual weapon could definitely kill a 7-star martial saint. A dim light flashed in Yi Hongjiao's heart. She said, "Master, you gave the soul-severing shuttle to me because?" "In the falling star mystic realm, kill Yi Xing." Hua Tianshu said resolutely, "This time, there can be no more accidents." Yi Xing was just a 3-star martial saint. However, Hua Tianshu gave Yi Hongjiao a forbidden weapon that could kill a 7-star martial saint. It could be seen that she was determined to kill Yi Xing in the falling star mystic realm. Yi Hongjiao put away the soul-severing shuttle and nodded. She said, "Master, don't worry. I will definitely kill Yi Xing in the falling star mystic realm. Moreover, I don't need the soul-severing shuttle to kill Yi Xing. With my strength, it's more than enough to kill him." Hua Tianshu said indifferently, "Hongjiao, don't be arrogant and complacent. Since you want to do something, you must be absolutely sure. Don't forget your junior brother's lesson." Yi Hongjiao's expression turned solemn. "Yes, master." The day of the opening of the falling star mystic realm had arrived. Yi Xing and the core disciples, led by sect master Lu Tianyuan and many senior members of the sect, came to the Falling Star Valley. The Falling Star Valley was located in the central area of the among several mountains. It was said that a star fell from the sky and smashed into the valley, so it was called the Falling Star Valley. The falling star was in the Falling Star Valley, and the Falling Star Mystic Realm was on top of the falling star. There were layers of seals in the Falling Star Valley. Lin Fenghua stepped forward and opened a passage to the depths of the Falling Star Valley, leading to the Falling Star Mystic Realm. When the passage appeared, sect master Lu Tianyuan stepped forward and said loudly, "Core disciples, you are the pillars of the sect and the future of the sect. When you enter the Falling Star Mystic Realm, you must pay attention to your safety. Don't act recklessly. If you encounter any difficulties inside, you must help each other and overcome the difficulties together. I hope that you can reach the Starry Hall in a month and return safely. Go in." As soon as Lu Tianyuan finished speaking, a young man of 22 or 23 years old walked out from behind him and waved to the core disciples. "Junior brothers, follow me." The young man was dressed in a silver robe. He was tall and slender, with sword-like eyebrows and square eyes. He looked dignified. He addressed all the core disciples as junior brothers and stood behind Lu Tianyuan. Obviously, he was the sect master's personal disciple, the chief disciple of the Falling Star sect, Marin. As Marin waved his hand, all the core disciples walked out from behind their master. Yi Xing also walked out. At this moment he felt a piercing gaze on him. "Let me tell you brothers a piece of good news. Because of my occasional break in updates, the God of Arrows has automatically withdrawn from the payment plan. Brothers, your subscriptions can be reduced by 1 cent per 1,000 words. I will make up for it when I update, but you can save the 1 cent per 1,000 words fee." Chapter 227. The owner of the gaze was the sect leader's wife, Hua Tianshu. Hua Tianshu's gaze flashed past Yi Xing's body, but even in such a short moment, Yi Xing could feel the intense killing intent in Hua Tianshu's heart. Feeling Hua Tianshu's killing intent, Yi Xing became vigilant. It seemed like this trip to the Fallen Star secret territory was not that safe. However, only core disciples could enter the Fallen Star secret territory. Therefore, Hua Tianshu could not enter the Fallen Star secret territory herself. If Hua Tianshu wanted to kill Yi Xing, she could only do it through her disciple, Yi Hongjiao. Yi Xing looked at Yi Hongjiao, and Yi Hongjiao happened to look at Yi Xing. When their eyes met, Yi Hongjiao's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Chief disciple Marin had already taken the lead and entered the passage. The other core disciples followed closely behind him, entering according to their rankings. Yi Hongjiao was one of the top 10 core disciples, so she quickly entered the passage. As an inner disciple, Yi Xing was naturally the last. There were only about 20 core disciples in total. Not long after, he also entered the Fallen Star Valley, disappearing from the sight of the Fallen Star sect's upper echelons. The passage opened by Lin Fenghua led to the depths of the valley, in front of a huge meteorite. The Fallen Star secret territory was on this meteor. When the core disciples approached it, they were directly transported into this secret territory. This was a very vast space, like another world. There were many spatial cracks in the void, which showed that this space was not stable. This was the reason why the Fallen Star sect only sent core disciples in. If experts with high cultivation were to enter, the secret territory would not be able to withstand the pressure, and it might collapse faster. Not far behind the core disciples was a dark light world, which was the edge of this world. In front of them was a wide field of vision, but 10 miles away, there were countless flames that covered the horizon. Even if Yi Xing looked into the distance, he could not see the edge of the sea of flames. Ma Ren stood at the front of the group of disciples and pointed at the sea of fire in front of them. In front of us is the sea of fire. After the sea of fire is the desert. After the desert is the ice mountain. After the ice mountain is the area where the stellar hall is located. After passing through the sea of fire, we have to split up and walk separately. After passing through the sea of fire, if you can meet up, then walk together. Finally, everyone will meet at the stellar hall. After pausing for a while, Ma Ren continued, "Junior brothers and sisters who are entering the Falling Star secret land for the first time, please take note. Do not stay in the sea of fire for too long. If you stay in one place for too long, it will cause a fire tide. The longer you stay in one place, the stronger the fire tide will be. The strongest fire tide can even incinerate a peak martial sage." In the end, Ma Ren reminded, "Also, if you see a spatial rift, don't go around it. That's a dangerous place that can even kill an adept in an instant." These matters were all explained to them by their respective elders and masters. All the disciples were very clear about it. Ma Ren's reminder left a deep impression on them. "Got it, eldest senior brother." Many disciples responded. Ma Ren nodded and said, "With your strength, it should not be a problem for you to pass through the sea of fire, the desert, and the ice mountain to reach the Star Hall. Now let's go. See you at the Star Hall." There was a reason why the Falling Star sect only allowed core disciples to enter the Falling Star secret land. The core disciples were at least 4-star martial sages and had the strength to pass through the 3 dangerous places in the Falling Star secret land. However, the inner disciples could not do so. Even 3-star martial sages had a high chance of dying in the 3 dangerous places. The disciples spread out and headed toward the sea of fire in front of them. From afar, the land of fire looked like a sea of fire. In fact, it was not. 90% of the ground was covered by fire. However, there were some small areas that did not have any fire. These small areas were either connected by roads or were not far apart. Cultivators could forcefully charge through the fire to reach the place. Therefore, they could pass through the land of fire. "Junior brother Yi," Lin Tongyu called out to Yi Xing from afar. She made a gesture to encourage Yi Xing. On Yi Xing's left was Lin Tongyu. The two of them were several hundred meters apart. Yi Xing heard her and waved at Lin Danyu. Then, Lin Tongyu passed through a path without any fire and rushed into the sea of fire. The core disciple on Yi Xing's right was Yi Hongjiao. She was very close to Yi Xing, only 200 meters apart. Yi Xing knew that Yi Hongjiao did not have any good intentions by deliberately coming to his side. However, Yi Xing was not afraid at all. Yi Xing chose a path and entered the sea of fire. Yi Hongjiao also entered the sea of fire. In the sea of fire, if there were too many cultivators or if they stayed for too long, it would trigger a tide of fire. Therefore, Yi Hongjiao did not plan to make a move in the sea of fire. The temperature outside the sea of fire was already very high. Inside the sea of fire, the temperature was even higher. Yi Xing used his celestial essence astral shield to protect his body, but he still felt very hot. The cultivation method he cultivated was the pure essence art. His celestial essence was extremely dense, no weaker than that of a 4-star martial saint. If an ordinary 3-star martial saint came here, they would feel as if they were being burned in the sea of fire. Yi Xing used the heavenly bat steps, controlling his speed to the most ordinary level, and went deep into the sea of fire. The 3 danger zones of the Fallen Star secret territory, the Sea of Fire, the desert, and the iceberg, were very vast. It would take 4 or 5 days to pass through each danger zone, or even longer. Inside, it was not suitable to run fast. One had to keep their consumption to a minimum. In the Sea of Fire, one could not stay for a long time. When resting, one could only rest for an hour at most. Moreover, it would be difficult to find a suitable place to rest for the whole day. If one did not know how to control their celestial essence consumption, they would die of exhaustion in the Sea of Fire. After walking for only half an hour, Yi Xing came to the end of the road. The front was blocked by the Sea of Fire. Yi Xing knew this as early as when he climbed over a hillside and looked down from above. He had already chosen the next path. Yi Xing jumped, and his body shot into the sky like a cannonball. He jumped more than 100 meters and landed on a nearby mountain peak. This mountain peak was full of flames. The flames rose more than 10 feet high. Yi Xing fell into the flames and disappeared instantly. Suddenly, a trace of turbulence appeared on the flames on the mountain peak. It was caused by someone moving quickly in the flames. Yi Xing had seen the other side of the mountain peak when he was high up on the hillside. As long as he rushed through this small flame area, he would be safe. The flames here were not ordinary. Yi Xing ran in it and consumed a lot of celestial essence. If it were other elementary martial sages, their celestial essence would not be able to withstand the burning of the flames. If they entered the flames, they would be burned to ashes in a few breaths. Soon Yi Xing crossed the mountain peak. Every time he crossed a certain distance, Yi Xing would jump out of the Sea of Fire and observe the surroundings to ensure that he was going in the right direction. Yi Xing saw that he was not far from the area without flames. However, at this time, a roar suddenly came from the flames. A giant beast covered in flames suddenly rushed out. This was a flame beast more than 3 feet long. It had 2 horns on its head and red scales on its body. It could walk in flames. This kind of demonic beast was called the Crystal Fire Beast by the Falling Star sect. It was not seen in the outside world. It could only be found in the Falling Star secret territory. Its body contained fire crystals, which were treasures for cultivating fire-attributed martial arts. This Crystal Fire Beast was equivalent to a peak 3-star martial sage. An ordinary 4-star martial sage would not be able to deal with it if they encountered it in flames. However, for Yi Xing, this Crystal Fire Beast rushing over was purely courting death. In an instant, the purple feather spear appeared in his hand. Dark Spirit Spear Art, Spiritual Light Flash. The purple feather spear streaked across a dark light. As soon as the Crystal Fire Beast appeared, Yi Xing's spear pierced its head, killing it instantly. Then, Yi Xing picked up the Crystal Fire Beast's corpse with his spear and used the Star Essence Astral Shield to protect his body. He continued to walk through the flames. Not long after, he came to another area without flames and put down the Crystal Fire Beast's corpse. Yi Xing took out a sharp spirit weapon and cut open the Crystal Fire Beast's head, taking out the fire crystals in its head. Then, Yi Xing cut open the Crystal Fire Beast's thick scales and dug out the tender meat in the depths of the scales, putting it into his storage ring. The Crystal Fire Beast's meat was one of the best ingredients. A Crystal Fire Beast was more than 3 feet long and weighed more than 1,000 pounds. However, there was very little tender meat, only about 10 pounds, which was about 1% of its body weight. This was the most valuable part of the Crystal Fire Beast's body. I had something to do yesterday, so I came home very late. I wanted to send a short chapter asking for leave, but I couldn't send it. I've made my brothers wait for a long time. Sorry. I owe 2 more chapters. Although the task of paying back my debts is very difficult, I will definitely pay it back. Thank you, brothers, for your support. Chapter 228. The tender meat of the Crystal Fire Beast was a priceless treasure. It wasn't that this meat was more valuable than other treasures. In fact, The tender meat of the crystal fire beast had no other uses other than being delicious and replenishing blood. The reason why it was priceless was because it was too difficult to obtain. Every time the fallen star secret territory opened, the chances of core disciples encountering a crystal fire beast in the Sea of Fire were extremely low. The crystal fire beast lived in the flames. When core disciples crossed the area of fire, they would only want to pass through as quickly as possible. They didn't want to fight the crystal fire beast in the flames. Unless they were martial artists who could kill the crystal fire beast in one move, they would do so. This didn't affect the time it took to cross the area of fire. For example, Yixing. If it were any other 4-star martial saint, or even a 5-star martial saint, it would be difficult for them to kill the crystal fire beast in one move. The fallen star secret realm only opened once every 3 years, and during that time, core disciples might not be able to kill crystal fire beasts and obtain their meat. Therefore, no matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to eat such delicious food most of the time. Therefore, the tender meat of the crystal fire beast was a priceless treasure. It wasn't that it was incomparably valuable, but that it could only be found by chance. Those who really wanted to eat it were willing to pay a sky-high price for a little bit of the tender meat, or even exchange it with other natural treasures that were helpful for cultivation. For most people, natural treasures that were helpful for cultivation were obviously more valuable. Different pursuits led to different values. Other than the flame crystals and the tender meat, the rest of the crystal fire beast's belongings weren't of much use to him. After taking the flame crystals and the tender meat, Yixing continued to walk along the fire-free tunnel towards the depths of the falling star secret realm. About an hour later, the flames on the side surged, and a crystal fire beast that was twice as large emerged from the Sea of Fire. This huge crystal fire beast was more than 6 zhang long and 3 zhang tall. It was like a moving house. The big crystal fire beast walked to the small crystal fire beast's corpse and sniffed it. Then, it raised its head and let out an earth-shattering roar. Then, the big crystal fire beast lowered its head and bowed to the small crystal fire beast's corpse. Then, it turned around and ran in the direction Yixing had gone. What Yixing didn't expect was that the crystal fire beast he killed wasn't a lone demonic beast, but the child of a large crystal fire beast. Although it was already an adult, it was still under the protection of the large crystal fire beast. Although demon beasts were animals, blood relations were still important. This large crystal fire beast had gone through the pain of losing its son and smelled Yixing's scent. Obviously, it was going to seek revenge on Yixing. The fire-free passageway was full of twists and turns. Although Yixing's speed wasn't slow, the distance he covered in a straight line wasn't too far. The giant crystalline fire beast that was chasing after Yixing, on the other hand, was charging straight at Yixing. It didn't take long for it to catch up with Yixing. Yixing, who was moving forward, suddenly felt the ground shake. He stopped and looked around vigilantly. Soon, the sound of something hitting the ground came from behind him. In the Sea of Fire, flames were rolling. Obviously, a giant beast was running out of the Sea of Fire. Is it a fire crystal beast? Yixing frowned slightly. Lin Fenghua had told him about the situation in the Falling Star secret territory. The fire crystal beasts in the Sea of Fire would only attack cultivators in the Sea of Fire. If the cultivators were in the fire-free area, they wouldn't be attacked by the fire crystal beasts. Yixing was in the fire-free area, but he knew that the giant beast that was running towards him had locked onto him. He was the target of the giant beast. Could it be because of the fire crystal beast that I killed earlier? Yixing began to speculate as the thought crossed his mind. Obviously, his guess was right. In the next moment, the giant beast rushed out of the Sea of Fire. It was the giant fire crystal beast that was more than 6 zhang long and 3 zhang tall. Yixing's heart skipped a beat when he saw it. This crystalline fire beast was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint. It was a strong enemy. A 6-star martial saint was the last realm of a middle-rank martial saint. Yixing was only a 3-star martial saint. There was a gap of 3 realms between the two. Before this, although Yixing had defeated Ma Ji was only a 4-star martial saint. Yixing hadn't even fought a 5-star martial saint. Moreover, This crystalline fire beast was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint. This made Yixing feel a lot of pressure. Although the Falling Star secret territory wasn't very dangerous, in the history of the many core disciples had died in the Falling Star secret territory and never came out again. Being chased by a crystal fire beast that was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint, only the top 3 core disciples, who were all 6-star martial saints, had a fighting chance. The rest of the core disciples were basically dead meat. However, Yixing was an exception. Ever since the Yixing hadn't used all his trump cards and battle prowess. Now, facing this crystalline fire beast that was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint, Yixing had used all his trump cards and battle prowess. Whether he could win or not was still unknown. Everything could only be determined after the battle. Yixing was alert. He activated his super brain and scanned the crystalline fire beast's every move and the power in its body. Everything was clearly scanned. This crystalline fire beast was too strong. Yixing had to be on guard. The crystalline fire beast rushed out of the sea of fire and looked at Yixing. It snorted and breathed out a hot breath. It sniffed at Yixing and its eyes burned with anger. The crystalline fire beast opened its bloody mouth and roared at Yixing. The sound was deafening and shook the earth. Moreover, a torrent of flames was spat out from the crystalline fire beast's bloody mouth. As the sound waves hit him, Yixing's body shook, and he couldn't even stand properly. Immediately, he circulated his celestial essence, causing his physical strength to drop by 10,000 genes. Only then did he manage to stabilize his body. However, the torrent of flames that followed was more than 10 times stronger than the sound wave. Even if he used his celestial essence to protect his body and his physical strength dropped by 10,000 gene, his body was still blasted back dozens of feet by the torrent of flames. He was directly blasted into the fire area. Yixing cultivated the pure Yuan art and his celestial essence was strong. Even if his body was pushed back dozens of feet, the celestial essence shield protecting his body was still intact and undamaged. However, the endless flames in all directions made him feel incomparably hot. The crystalline fire beast was stronger in flames. Even in the fire area, this crystalline fire beast, which was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint, was a great enemy of Yixing. Now, Yixing's situation was even more dangerous. Yixing's body continued to retreat. With the attack power of the torrent of flames, the speed of Yixing's retreat was extremely fast. In an instant, Yixing adjusted his battle strategy. He opened up the distance and shot with his bow and arrow. He did not want to fight the crystalline fire beast head-on. The purple feather spear in Yixing's hand turned into a spirit pattern bow in the blink of an eye and shot out a blue sandalwood arrow. The arrow broke through the air and tore the air. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of the crystalline fire beast. This arrow, which was as fast as flowing light, was enough to kill any 4-star martial saint. Even a 5-star martial saint would not be able to block it. However, in front of the crystalline fire beast, it was nothing. The crystalline fire beast stretched out its claws and slapped. It was like slapping a mosquito. It slapped the arrow to the ground and smashed it into pieces. The crystalline fire beast roared again. It shook the heavens and the earth. Its body moved and waves surged. It pounced toward Yixing. 4 symbols arrow art, vermilion bird arrow style. Yixing drew his bow again. The arrow left the bowstring and with endless flames, it turned into a vermilion bird that was formed by flames. It charged toward the crystalline fire beast. The vermilion bird was 10 feet long. It was much bigger than the crystalline fire beast and looked extremely terrifying. The vermilion bird arrow style was a fire-based martial art. It was strong when it came into contact with fire. When it was used in this place of flames, its power would be multiplied. However, the crystalline fire beast was a fire-based demonic beast. It lived in flames and was least afraid of the power of fire. Facing the vermilion bird that was bigger than it, the crystalline fire beast pounced toward it without fear. Rip. The crystalline fire beast waved its claws and tore the vermilion bird apart. The arrow was also knocked away. The vermilion bird arrow style could not hurt it. Maybe Yixing could use the Sagittarius constellation to shoot an arrow that could threaten the crystalline fire beast. However, Yixing did not have the chance to do so. The crystalline fire beast tore the vermilion bird apart. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Yixing. Yixing put away his bow and took out his purple feather spear. In the flames, Yixing could not see the crystalline fire beast from a distance. The bow and arrow required distance. Hence, to fight the crystalline fire beast here, the bow and arrow were not the best weapon. It was better to fight the crystalline fire beast in close combat. There will be 4 updates today. Chapter 229. Undercurrent surged. With the purple feather spear in his hand, Yixing instantly displayed the Dark Spirit Spear art. Yixing's Dark Spirit Spear art, which was at the small success stage, had extraordinary power. As soon as he used this move, Yixing's aura surged, and the surrounding flames retreated. The spear move, which contained the power of darkness, caused Yixing's surroundings to suddenly turn into darkness. Roar! The fire crystal beast roared. No matter what was in the darkness, it stretched out its huge claw and slapped over. Bang! The purple feather spear and the huge claw collided, causing a loud explosion. Yixing only felt a terrifying power passing over. His body involuntarily retreated by more than 10 meters. The Star Origin shield trembled and seemed to be on the verge of collapse. The surrounding flames swarmed over. Yixing was unbearably hot and sweat poured down like rain. As expected of a 6-star martial saint demonic beast, the fire crystal beast's power was terrifying. Even though Yixing's Dark Spirit Spear art had reached the small success stage, he still could not resist. In the blink of an eye, Yixing was pushed back by the fire crystal beast. With a roar, the fire crystal beast pounced over again. Compared to Yixing, the fire crystal beast was not terrifying at all. It only slapped out its huge claw and attacked directly. However, when its power and speed reached a certain level, its direct attacks were the most terrifying. It could not be blocked. It could not be dodged. Suddenly, 2 green vortexes appeared in Yixing's eyes. He had displayed the green eyes of clear clouds. The eyes of clear clouds was an eye technique that affected one's thinking. Yixing had already cultivated it to an extremely high level. Although it was not as good as Zishanho, it still had a certain influence on the thinking of a 6-star martial saint demonic beast. When the fire crystal beast's eyes met with Yixing's green eyes, its movements slowed. Yixing moved and displayed the heavenly bat steps. He was as fast as a ghost and instantly dodged the claw attack of the fire crystal beast. At the same time, the purple feather spear stabbed out. A flash of inspiration. The purple feather spear carried a ray of dark light and instantly pierced the fire crystal beast's body. The purple feather spear passed through the fire crystal beast's body, causing sparks to fly. The red scales on the fire crystal beast's body were too sturdy. Yixing felt as if he had stabbed a piece of precious iron. The purple feather spear in his hand transmitted a huge rebound force. Other than the wound caused by the first stab of the spear, the subsequent wounds did not break through the fire crystal beast's red scales. To the fire crystal beast's huge body, that little bit of damage was almost negligible. Roar! Roar, roar, roar. Although the fire crystal beast's injuries were light, the pain made the fire crystal beast even angrier. In an instant, it went berserk. Its entire body burned with raging flames, and its power multiplied. Looking at its might, even an ordinary 6-star martial sage would have a 90% chance of dying if they ran into it. Yixing instantly felt threatened. If he continued to fight like this, he would definitely be the one at a disadvantage. He immediately made a decision. Whoosh! A ray of starlight rushed out from the space between Yixing's eyebrows. This was a ray of black starlight. It soared into the sky, and in an instant, the surroundings turned into darkness. Above the darkness, there was a huge dark vortex. Yixing had used the black hole astrology. He had to use his trump card and raise his strength to the strongest state. Only then would he be able to fight the fire crystal beast to the death. The black hole astrology was too heaven-defying. Under the cover of darkness, the surrounding flames lost their light. Yixing's perception spread out in the darkness, and everything around him was clear as the palm of his hand. This included the fire crystal beast, who had fallen into the darkness. The surroundings were suddenly covered in darkness, and this shocked the fire crystal beast. The flames on its body burned even more fiercely, but the light it emitted was extremely weak. It could only illuminate an area of 10 feet around it. Beyond that, it was pitch black. Yi Xing felt the darkness. He wanted to take advantage of the fact that the fire crystal beast was covered in darkness to launch an attack. However, a sudden change shocked Yi Xing, and he stopped the thought of attacking. The black hole vortex in the sky produced a huge suction force. It swallowed the flames in all directions. The black hole astrology could actually devour flames? No, it was not flames. Yi Xing's sense of touch merged with the darkness. He could see all the changes around him. The flames around him did not change, but the power of the flames had changed. The black hole astrology had devoured the essence of the flames, leaving only the shell of the flames. It had turned into the most ordinary flames. Ordinary flames could be easily blocked by a 1-star martial sage with celestial essence. However, the flames in this land of flames could only be blocked by a 4-star martial sage with celestial essence. There was a huge difference between the two. The reason for this difference was the essence of the flames. The sea of flames in the fallen star secret realm had more essence of the flames than ordinary flames. Now that the essence of the flames had been devoured by the black hole astrology, the flames in the sea of flames naturally turned into ordinary flames. Not only were the flames around him weakening, but Yi Xing also felt that the power of the fire crystal beast was also weakening. The fire crystal beast was a demonic beast that lived in flames. Its strength was closely related to the flames. Its body also contained the essence of the flames. However, when the black hole astrology devoured the essence of the flames in the fire crystal beast's body, everything was devoured. As the essence of the flames in the fire crystal beast's body decreased, the power of the fire crystal beast naturally weakened. The black hole astrology actually had such an effect. This was another function that shocked and surprised Yi Xing. In a moment, Yi Xing realized the true effect of the black hole astrology devouring the essence of the flames. A ball of fire suddenly appeared between his eyebrows. This ball of fire was located at the edge of the space between his eyebrows. It was very weak. However, as the black hole astrology continued to devour the essence of the flames, this ball of fire was growing stronger. This discovery made Yi Xing suck in a breath of cold air. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. He almost trembled in fear. The space between the eyebrows was the territory of the astrology. What did it mean for a ball of fire to appear in the space between the eyebrows? This meant that Yi Xing was going to have another astrology, the fire astrology. Yi Xing already had the black hole astrology and the Sagittarius astrology. This had already broken his martial arts common sense. Now, he was going to have a third astrology? This was too unbelievable. Moreover, this third astrology was born because of the black hole astrology. This proved that the black hole astrology was heaven-defying. As the black hole astrology absorbed more and more essence of the flames, the fire in the space between Yi Xing's eyebrows became brighter and stronger. It slowly moved from the edge of the space to the center. Roar! A beast's roar interrupted Yi Xing's surprise. Although the fire crystal beast could not see the surrounding darkness, it could still feel Yi Xing's breath. It had locked onto Yi Xing's position. The surrounding darkness only surprised it for a short while before it launched an attack on Yi Xing. The fire crystal beast had fought with Yi Xing before. It knew that Yi Xing's strength was weaker than it. Therefore, even though the surrounding darkness confused it, it did not affect its decision to kill Yi Xing. Yi Xing knew everything in the darkness like the back of his hand. As soon as the fire crystal beast moved, Yi Xing reacted. He used the heavenly bat steps and suddenly changed his position. Although the fire crystal beast could sense Yi Xing's breath in the darkness and lock onto Yi Xing's position, it was not as agile as using its eyes. As soon as Yi Xing changed his position, the fire crystal beast accurately locked onto Yi Xing's position again. It needed some time. At this time, Yi Xing had already launched a fatal attack on the fire crystal beast. Dark Spirit Spear. Yixing pushed his celestial essence to the limit. His strength erupted as he displayed the ultimate technique of the dark spirit spear art. The purple feather spear brought out a shiny black spear light, shattering all the airflow. In an instant, it arrived beside the fire crystal beast and stabbed towards its head from the side. The spear thrust had a strong penetrating power. Coupled with the terrifying power of this move, even if the fire crystal beast had amazing defensive power, it could not withstand the attack of this spear. The purple feather spear stabbed out as fast as lightning. The fire crystal beast accurately locked onto Yixing's position and simply could not dodge. In the nick of time, the fire crystal beast tilted its head, avoiding its vital points. The purple feather spear, with a dark light, instantly stabbed into the fire crystal beast's stomach. Blood spurted and sparks flew. The purple feather spear stabbed into the fire crystal beast's neck. The entire spearhead was buried under the red scales, reaching a depth of a few inches. Yixing immediately retracted his stab. He was not greedy for temporary benefits. The purple feather spear rotated and suddenly created a fist-sized bloody hole in the fire crystal beast's neck. Yixing held the spear and retreated like lightning. Second watch. Chapter 230. The fire crystal beast's injuries were not fatal and did not affect its life. Its combat power did not decrease, but the injury on its neck made it even more furious. It went completely berserk. The fire crystal beast pounced on Yixing with all its might. If Yixing had not pulled back decisively, he would have been pounced on by the fire crystal beast if he had been a little slower. He would have had to fight it head-on again. With the fire crystal beast's berserk power, Yixing would definitely be at a disadvantage if he fought it head-on. Yixing retreated and immediately used the sky bat steps. He moved quickly and constantly changed his position. By the time the fire crystal beast confirmed Yixing's position, Yixing was already dozens of feet away. This caused the fire crystal beast's attack to miss. The black hole continued to devour the fire essence. With every second that passed, the fire essence in the fire crystal beast's body was reduced by a little and its power decreased by a little. Yixing did not plan to fight the fire crystal beast in close combat. He wanted to keep a distance and weaken the fire crystal beast's power. Yixing also had ways to attack the fire crystal beast even if he didn't fight it at close range. He put away the purple feather spear and took out the spiritual pattern bow again. At this time, another ray of starlight shot out from Yixing's forehead. It turned into a huge bow of starlight and stood side by side with the black hole vortex. When the two stars were used at the same time, Yixing used all his trump cards. In an instant he drew the bow and shot an arrow. The green sandalwood arrow carried the light of darkness and instantly shot towards the fire crystal beast's fatal spot. This arrow was enhanced by the power of the Sagittarius constellation. In terms of power, it was not inferior to the Dark Spirit Spear's ultimate move, the Dark Spirit Spear. This arrow not only contained the power of darkness but also the power of wind. In terms of speed, it was even faster than the Dark Spirit Spear. The arrow was like a meteor and disappeared in a flash. The fire crystal beast had just noticed the arrow's existence and wanted to block it when the arrow had already hit its fatal spot. Roar! The fire crystal beast immediately fell forward onto the ground. Its vital point had been hit by the arrow. This time, the fire crystal beast had suffered a huge injury. The injury was fatal. However, the fire crystal beast's powerful vitality allowed it to crawl back up. Even though it was injured, it was unable to completely kill it in a short period of time. Yixing drew his bow, and another arrow shot out from the darkness. The fire crystal beast was seriously injured. Regardless of whether it was its reaction speed or its defense, it was greatly reduced. This arrow had penetrated deeply, directly piercing through its heart. With a loud boom, the fire crystal beast, which had just struggled to get up, fell to the ground again. Even though the fire crystal beast had a strong life force, it was still unable to get up after being severely injured twice in a row. Its life force was rapidly draining away. The fire crystal beast had lost its ability to resist, and the fire essence in its body was quickly drained away by the black hole astral form. Moreover, as the fire essence was drained away, the fire crystal beast's strength became weaker and weaker, and it died even faster. In about 10 breaths, the fire crystal beast was completely dead. Yi Xing kept the Sagittarius constellation astral form and continued to maintain the black hole astral form. He walked to the side of the fire crystal beast, opened its head, and took out the fire crystal. This fire crystal was the size of a bowl. It was of a much higher grade than the fist-sized fire crystal from before, and it contained more fire energy. Immediately, Yi Xing cut open the fire crystal beast's body and cut off its tender meat. This fire crystal beast weighed at least 3,000 pounds, and the tender meat on its body was more than 30 pounds. The weight of the tender meat was almost 3 times that of the small fire crystal beast from before. Yi Xing was naturally happy and kept it all in his storage ring. In his previous life on Earth, Yi Xing was a foodie who loved delicious food. After coming to the Star Continent, his interest did not change. In his opinion, the tender meat of the fire crystal beast was a priceless ingredient. Now, Yi Xing was no longer afraid of the flames in the sea of fire. Under the devouring of the black hole astral form, the surrounding flames lost a lot of their essence and almost became ordinary flames. They were no longer a threat to Yi Xing. Yi Xing scanned the space between his eyebrows. The little flame had already condensed into a small fireball. Compared to the Sagittarius constellation astral form in the space between his eyebrows, it was very small. Obviously, as an astral form, the little flame between Yi Xing's eyebrows was not qualified. He had to continue absorbing the essence of the flames. Therefore, Yi Xing changed his plan of going along the fire-free passage. Instead, he deliberately walked in the sea of fire, using the black hole astral form to absorb the essence of the flames in the sea of fire. In this way, the fire astral form in the space between his eyebrows gradually grew stronger. Moreover, Yi Xing's understanding of the flames also increased. When the first day passed, Yi Xing's understanding of the flames had made qualitative progress. Not only could he feel the flames shrouded in darkness, but he could also feel the flames further away. Yi Xing had also comprehended a new worldly momentum, the fire momentum. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, these 5 attributes were the foundation of the heavens and earth. They were known as the 5 elements. These 5 worldly momentum were also the most basic worldly momentum and were the easiest to comprehend. As long as the conditions were good, a martial sage with outstanding perception could comprehend the 5 basic worldly momentum. The black hole astral form directly devoured the essence of the flames and turned it into Yi Xing's comprehension. This was the best condition, and Yi Xing had excellent perception. Therefore, it only took him a day to comprehend the fire momentum. It could be said that when the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. There was no difficulty at all. After comprehending the fire momentum, Yi Xing was like a flame messenger. He was not afraid of flames. Even if there was no celestial essence defense and no black hole astral form to absorb the essence of the flames, Yi Xing could still walk through this sea of flames. Now, with the black hole astral form absorbing the essence of the flames, Yi Xing walked through the sea of flames as if he was taking a stroll in the park. There was no power or pressure at all. Although Yi Xing moved forward in a straight line in the sea of flames, because he had to absorb the essence of the flames, Yi Xing had to stop for a while every time he moved forward. It was not until he had absorbed almost all the essence of the flames around him that he continued to move forward. Therefore, after a day, Yi Xing's distance was not far. Perhaps, it was not as far as the distance that the other disciples had to travel in a straight line in the fire-free area. However, Yi Xing did not mind that his speed was slow. Being able to comprehend one more astral form was more precious than any harvest. Therefore, improving the fire astral form was the most important thing. Everything else could be put aside first. After comprehending the fire momentum, Yi Xing put away the black hole astral form and rested for half an hour. He had a large number of low-rank celestial crystals given to him by Lin Fenghua, which allowed him to recover his celestial essence very quickly. In half an hour, he had recovered all the celestial essence he had consumed. Moreover, after half an hour of quiet cultivation, his fatigue had also been greatly alleviated. Yi Xing continued on his journey. A martial sage's body was very muscular. They could go days and nights without eating or sleeping. Yi Xing's body was particularly strong. He had only broken through to the martial sage realm after cultivating a top-grade body refining cultivation method to perfection. In terms of physical strength, Yi Xing was stronger than most martial sages. His body recovered very quickly. Therefore, half an hour of rest was more than enough. After walking for another day, he rested for half an hour before continuing on his journey. At the end of the third day, Yi Xing found that the fire astral form in his glabella space had been fixed. No matter how much the black hole astral form absorbed the fire essence, the fire astral form remained the size of an egg. The fire essence in the sea of fire did not decrease, and the fire astral form was no longer strengthened. This could only mean one thing. The strength of the fire essence here was limited. The fire astral form formed by the fire essence could only reach its current state. The size of an egg was only the relative size of the fire astral form in the glabella space. Compared to the Sagittarius constellation astral form and the black hole astral form, it was obviously very small. However, when Yi Xing released his fire celestial aspect, it turned into a mountain-sized star in the sky. This was already stronger than the ordinary celestial aspects of many martial saints. It was even comparable to Zi Shanho's Earth Fire Star aspect. The Earth Fire astral form was already a high-grade astral form. It could be seen that Yi Xing's fire astral form was actually very strong. It was just that the Sagittarius constellation astral form and the black hole astral form were too strong. Therefore, it seemed so small in comparison. Yi Xing put away his black hole astral avatar. Now that he had comprehended the fire force and also possessed the flame astral avatar, even if he didn't use his celestial essence to defend himself, he could still walk through the sea of flames. The flames here couldn't harm him. Therefore, he sped up and rushed through the sea of flames towards the depths of the falling star mystic territory. In 3 days, Yi Xing's distance was not far. He should have fallen behind the other disciples. If he was fast, he would be able to cross the sea of fire in 1 or 2 days. However, Yi Xing's current distance was only about 1/3 of the sea of fire. Chapter 231. Yi Xing had to increase his speed to catch up. With his speed, the distance he could cover in 1 day was equivalent to several days for others. Even if he was the last, Yi Xing still had a very high chance of being the first to pass through the sea of flames. Not only could one travel in a straight line through the sea of flames, which greatly shortened the distance, there was another benefit. The chances of encountering crystal fire beasts were higher. Both the fire crystals and the meat of the crystal fire beasts were good stuff. When Yi Xing encountered crystal fire beasts, he naturally did not fear them and killed all of them. In the past 3 days, aside from the 2 crystal fire beasts he encountered earlier, he encountered 5 more. Yi Xing obtained a total of 7 fire crystals and 50 kilograms of meat. Of the 7 fire crystals, the smallest one came from the crystal fire beast equivalent to a 3-star martial sage. The largest one came from the crystal fire beast equivalent to a 6-star martial sage. As for the other 5 crystal fire beasts, 4 were equivalent to 4-star martial sages and 1 was equivalent to a 5-star martial sage. It could be seen that the crystal fire beasts in the Sea of Flames were equivalent to 4-star martial sages. There were more of them. On the 4th day, Yi Xing increased his speed. The number of crystal fire beasts he encountered in the Sea of Flames increased. In just 2 hours, Yi Xing encountered 2 crystal fire beasts equivalent to 4-star martial sages. Yi Xing killed both of them and obtained the fire crystals and meat. At this rate, Yi Xing would probably encounter more than 10 crystal fire beasts after walking through the Sea of Flames for the entire day. If he could kill them all, just the flame crystals and tender meat he would obtain would be a huge fortune. However, after killing the 2nd crystal fire beast, Yi Xing walked forward for less than a quarter of an hour before he stopped and changed his direction, heading to the right. Yi Xing had comprehended the power of fire and was extremely sensitive to flames. Not far to the left, Yi Xing sensed the aura of a special flame. The reason why it was special was because the aura of this flame was completely different from the flames in the Sea of Fire. It was purer and hotter, as if it was of a higher grade. Yixing's flame astral aspect still had room for improvement. It was just that the level of the flames in the sea of fire was too low. Now that Yixing had sensed a higher level of flames, he naturally had to go and take a look. If the black hole astral form could devour its fire essence and increase the strength of the fire astral form, that would be a great thing. Yixing sensed the source of the special flame after moving forward for several dozen kilometers. It was already in his line of sight. After comprehending the power of fire, the effect of fire on Yixing's eyesight was greatly reduced. Several miles in front of him, there was a mountain of fire that was several thousand meters tall. The special flame he sensed was at the peak of that mountain. However, Yixing's gaze was far away. After breaking through the layers of flames, he did not see the special flame. Instead, he saw a large number of crystal fire beasts on the mountain peak. There were several hundred crystal fire beasts. The weak ones were equivalent to 2 or 3-star martial sages, while the strong ones were equivalent to 5 or 6-star martial sages. These were only a small number, about 1/10 of the total. In particular, the crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 2-star and 6-star martial sages were even rarer. There were only 5 of them that were equivalent to 2-star martial sages and 3 that were equivalent to 6-star martial sages. Most of the crystal fire beasts were equivalent to 4-star martial sages, accounting for 90% of the total. If Yixing wanted to obtain the special flame, he would have to climb this mountain. However, once he did, he would definitely be discovered by these crystal fire beasts. In a one-on-one fight, although Yixing had killed crystal fire beasts equivalent to 6-star martial sages, he was definitely not a match for these several hundred crystal fire beasts. Each crystal fire beast could stomp Yixing into meat paste with one stomp. However, Yixing was unwilling to retreat just like that. What was that special flame? Why was its aura so much stronger than the other flames? Yixing really wanted to know. He wanted to get to the bottom of this. Furthermore, he had some suspicions in his heart. Could that flame with an extraordinary aura be a fire seed? A flame seed was the source of all flames. A flame without a source would be extinguished after its fuel was used up. A flame seed, on the other hand, did not need fuel and would never be extinguished. Every flame seed was extremely rare and had a close relationship with the origin of all flames. It was said that any flame seed, when promoted to the peak, could become the origin of all flames. It was because of this that a flame seed was called the origin of all flames. The tender meat of the crystal fire beasts was a priceless treasure, but that was only relative. A flame seed was truly a priceless treasure that everyone wanted. If one could obtain a flame seed, it would be an unimaginable gain. In the entire Qingyun district, there were countless cultivators and more than 10 sections. However, there might not even be a single flame seed. In the Qingyun district, a flame seed was a legend. Yixing had comprehended the power of fire. His perception of fire was different from that of ordinary people. Although he had never seen a flame seed before, he had a strong feeling that the special flame on the mountain peak was a flame seed. Especially as he approached the mountain peak, the feeling became even stronger. First, Yixing could feel that the special flame was not large. If it was a certain type of flame, it should be very large. Just like the flames around Yixing, they were connected into a sea of fire. It was impossible for a single type of flame to only burn in a small cluster. This was not normal. Second, Yixing could feel that the special flame had an aura of vicissitudes. It was not like a flame that constantly burned, but more like an eternal flame seed. Whether or not it is a flame seed, I have to go up the mountain and take a look. I have to obtain this special flame. Yixing thought to himself. Although there were several hundred crystal fire beasts on the mountain, Yixing was not completely helpless. He was not only a martial artist, but also an array master. When he was still 1,000 meters away from the mountain peak, Yixing began to arrange the array. After comprehending the power of fire, Yixing turned the flame into energy and used the flame to inscribe the array patterns. The array he arranged would not be damaged by the flame. Moreover, the power of the array would be strengthened by the flame. Yi Xing used half of his celestial essence to guide the flame and inscribe the array patterns, and the other half used low-grade celestial crystals to guide the flame. The arrangement speed was very fast. In half an hour, he had arranged a coiling snake array. Yi Xing's coiling snake array had not reached the small success stage. It was more than enough to deal with the beginner martial sage. However, it was not enough to deal with a mid-level martial sage. However, if one was not enough, what about 2, 3, or even 10? If he could chain one layer after another to form a chain array, even if it was an ordinary coiling snake array, under the control of the array master, it would have the power to kill a 4-star martial sage. As long as the coiling snake array had the power to kill a 4-star martial sage, Yi Xing planned to harvest this group of crystal fire beasts. The crystal fire beasts were equivalent to 5-star or 6-star martial sages. He could completely rely on the array and his own strength to deal with them. Soon, 2 coiling snake arrays were arranged. At this time, the surrounding flames surged in one direction like waves, forming a flame tide. Yi Xing had been here for 2 hours. The flame tide contained a strong impact force. Even a 4-star martial sage would find it difficult to resist. However, it was not a threat to Yi Xing. Yi Xing could withstand the flame tide with just his celestial essence defense. Moreover, Yi Xing had the flame astral aspect and comprehended the power of fire. The power of ordinary flames could not hurt him. There was no need to defend at all. Even in the middle of the flame tide, Yi Xing continued to arrange the array. One coiling snake array after another was successfully arranged by Yi Xing. When the 4th flame tide passed, Yi Xing had already arranged 8 coiling snake arrays. The 8 coiling snake arrays were connected head to tail. The arrays were layered one after another. With Yi Xing, the array master, the power of the array was at its strongest state. Killing a 4-star martial sage would be a piece of cake. After doing all this, Yi Xing adjusted his breath for a while and restored his celestial essence to the peak. Then, he began to attack the crystal fire beasts on the mountain peak. He stood in the array, 1,000 meters away from the mountain peak. He was also a few thousand meters away from the crystal fire beasts on the mountain peak. This distance was not far compared to the range of his bow and arrow. 2 rays of starlight shot out from Yi Xing's glabella. One turned into a dark vortex, and the other turned into a starry arrow. The surroundings were suddenly shrouded in darkness. Bush, bush, bush. Yi Xing took out 3 blue sandalwood arrows and shot them at the same time. The arrows, which contained the power of the Sagittarius constellation, the power of wind, the power of darkness, and the power of fire, instantly left the bowstring and shot toward a 6-star crystal fire beast. A 6-star crystal fire beast was not easy to deal with, especially when there were 3 of them. Yi Xing would have a hard time dealing with them. Therefore, taking advantage of the sneak attack, Yi Xing wanted to get rid of the strongest crystal fire beast first. After being attacked by Yi Xing, the crystal fire beast instantly fell into darkness. It felt as if the world had turned dark. At this time, 3 arrows were shot at 3 of its vital points. The crystal fire beast was suddenly attacked. Before it could react, 3 of its vital points were hit by the arrows. It immediately let out a shrill scream and fell to the ground, twitching. This crystal fire beast was one of the 3 strongest crystal fire beasts. When it was suddenly ambushed and shot by an arrow, it was fatally wounded. This gave the other crystal fire beasts a fright. Some of the crystal fire beasts were so frightened that they scattered. Only the other 2 strongest crystal fire beasts were slightly calmer. However, they also revealed expressions of fear. They immediately looked in Yi Xing's direction. This result was out of Yi Xing's expectations. Yi Xing thought that after killing one of the crystal fire beasts, the other crystal fire beasts would swarm toward him. He did not expect that after killing the strongest crystal fire beast, the other crystal fire beasts would be intimidated. A portion of them even fled. Nearly a third of the crystal fire beasts fled. There were a total of 150 to 60 crystal fire beasts. With so many crystal fire beasts fleeing, the pressure on Yi Xing lessened by a lot. These several hundred crystal fire beasts were not a complete group. In fact, they were made up of 3 small groups. Each crystal fire beast was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint and was the leader of a small group. Yi Xing had killed a crystal fire beast that was equivalent to a 6-star martial saint, which meant that he had killed a leader. With the leader killed, the group of crystal fire beasts that the crystal fire beast ruled over was naturally frightened and scattered. Roar, roar. In the blink of an eye, the other 2 strongest crystal fire beasts roared. They had discovered Yi Xing's position and ordered the group of crystal fire beasts to attack Yi Xing. Chapter 232. At the same time, the 2 leaders hid behind the other crystal fire beasts to guard against Yi Xing's hidden arrows. Rumble. Apart from the dozen or so crystal fire beasts that stayed behind to guard the 2 leaders, the remaining 300 or so crystal fire beasts rushed down the mountain at the same time, diving toward Yi Xing. Yi Xing took out 3 blue sandalwood arrows again. Using 2 kinds of astrology at the same time, 3 kinds of worldly momentum were added to the arrows at the same time, and they were instantly shot out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 arrows were shot at 3 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 5-star martial sages. Whoever Yi Xing attacked would be affected by the black hole astrology and fall into a world of darkness. The 3 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 5-star martial sages fell into darkness in an instant. The sudden change made them suddenly panic. At this time, the 3 arrows pierced through the air like flowing lights. Naturally, they did not have time to dodge and were all hit in their vital points. In an instant, the 3 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 5-star martial sages screamed at the same time and fell to the ground. Although they had strong vitality and would not die immediately, their vital points had been seriously injured. It was a fatal injury. They would not live for long. Moreover, they did not have the strength to fight anymore. The crystal fire beasts were extremely fast. After Yi Xing had killed 3 of them, the group of crystal fire beasts had already rushed down the mountain for more than 1,000 meters. At this speed, the group of crystal fire beasts would reach Yi Xing in a dozen breaths at most. Yi Xing took a deep breath. Circulating his star essence, he continued to shoot the crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 5-star martial sages in the group of crystal fire beasts. The 8-layered coiling snake array could kill 4-star martial sages, but it could not kill 5-star martial sages. 5-star martial sages had great destructive power against the coiling snake array. Therefore, Yi Xing wanted to kill as many crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 5-star martial sages as possible to prevent them from destroying the array. Without the array, more than 300 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 4-star martial sages would rush up and trample Yi Xing into meat paste. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Every time, Yi Xing was fully focused. Whether it was celestial essence, heaven and earth's grand momentum, or celestial image's power, everything was pushed to the limit to launch the strongest and sharpest attack. In such a state, the crystal fire beasts, which were equivalent to 5-star martial saints, naturally fell to Yi Xing's arrows one after another. Every one of them was hit in a vital spot, suffering fatal injuries. Originally, there were only 10-odd crystal fire beasts equivalent to 5-star martial sages. When Yi Xing fired 3 arrows, he attacked 3 crystal fire beasts at once. After a few rounds, the crystal fire beasts equivalent to 5-star martial sages all fell while charging. Although they had strong vitality and did not die instantly, death was only a matter of time. After falling to the ground, it was difficult for them to get up again. Roar, 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 roar. With 2 crystal fire beast leaders commanding them, even though Yi Xing had killed many powerful crystal fire beasts, the other crystal fire beasts were not afraid. They roared and charged at Yi Xing. Kill! Yi Xing put away the spirit pattern bow. Looking at more than 300 crystal fire beasts charging at him, he pushed his hands forward. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 giant flame serpents more than 10 feet long rushed out of each coiling snake formation. There were a total of 24 of them. 24 giant flame serpents rushed out at the same time. The momentum was so great that it made all the crystal fire beasts pause and their hearts tremble. The giant flame serpents danced in the air like dragons soaring to the 9 heavens. They made crackling sounds and their power shook the sky. The crystal fire beasts only paused for a blink of an eye before they rushed over again. Under the command of their leaders, they had no choice but to advance. Moreover, the crystal fire beasts were fire-type demonic beasts and were least afraid of fire. Therefore, although the giant flame serpents were powerful, the crystal fire beasts were only shocked for a moment and were no longer afraid. Boom, 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 boom. A large number of crystal fire beasts collided with the 24 giant flame serpents. Even more crystal fire beasts rushed directly into the barrier of the coiling snake formation. The crystal fire beasts that collided with the giant flame serpents immediately let out shrill screams. The power of the coiling snake formation was not only the power of fire but also the power of the formation. It was only because it was set up in a land of fire and Yi Xing had set it up with fire-type patterns that the formation integrated the power of fire from the surrounding environment. Even without the power of fire, the power of the coiling snake formation chain was still terrifying. It was enough to kill a 4-star martial saint. Some of the crystal fire beasts were forced to retreat by the giant flame serpents. Among them, more than 20 of them were directly sent flying dozens of meters away. Blood flowed out of their mouths and noses. They got up and rushed a few steps before falling to the ground again. They had already suffered serious injuries. Under the control of the formation master, the full power of the 8-layered coiling snake formation chain was very powerful. The crystal fire beasts that collided with it were of course seriously injured in an instant. However, there were too many crystal fire beasts. When they swarmed together, their attack power was also very frightening. With a cracking sound, one of the coiling snake formation chains was instantly destroyed by the crystal fire beasts in the first wave of attacks. The 8-layered coiling snake formation chain became a 7-layered coiling snake formation chain. In the blink of an eye, the second wave of attacks from the crystal fire beasts came like a storm. Yi Xing waved his hand. This time, 21 giant flame serpents rushed out of the coiling snake formation chain. Although they were still powerful, they were still slightly weaker than the 24 giant flame serpents. In a coiling snake formation chain, each additional layer would increase its power. The 7-layered coiling snake formation chain was obviously not comparable to the 8-layered coiling snake formation chain. However, it still had no problem killing a 4-star martial saint. In the fierce collision, many more crystal fire beasts were injured. About 20 of them were seriously injured and were directly sent flying. At the same time, another coiling snake formation chain was destroyed. If there were less than 4 coiling snake formations chain, the threat to 4-star martial saints would be greatly reduced. Now, there were only 6 coiling snake formations chain left. If this continued, 2 more of the coiling snake formations chain would be destroyed, and they would not be able to kill 4-star martial saints. Even if he could still injure 40 crystal fire beasts, there were still a lot of uninjured crystal fire beasts. There were as many as 200 of them. Yi Xing still could not defeat them. Not to mention, there were still 2 crystal fire beast leaders on the mountain peak who were equivalent to a 6-star martial saint. There were also more than 10 crystal fire beast guards beside them. If he wanted to defeat these crystal fire beasts, he had to protect the formation. The purple plume spear instantly appeared in Yi Xing's hand. Yi Xing began to attack the crystal fire beasts that were attacking the formation at close range. Undercurrent surged. A flash of light. Dark Spirit Spear. Yi Xing performed the Dark Spirit Spear art one move after another. Any crystal fire beast that was attacked by him fell into the dark world of the black hole astral facade. They felt that everything around them was pitch black, and they were terrified. Yi Xing attacked the crystal fire beasts that were charging at the very front. Since they were trapped in the dark world, they naturally could not continue to attack the formation. As for the crystal fire beasts at the back, because of the crystal fire beasts at the front, they could not attack the formation. As a result, the number of attacks that the coiling snake formation chain received was greatly reduced. Only a portion of the crystal fire beasts attacked the formation's barrier. The 6 coiling snake formations were connected to each other. The attacks that they received were unable to break through any of the coiling snake formations. Instead, it was the crystal fire beasts that were trapped in the dark world that received Yi Xing's fatal attacks. Every thrust of Yi Xing's spear contained the power of 3 heavens and earth. Coupled with his small success in the dark spirit spear art, the might of his spear was astonishing. Against the crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 4-star martial sages, he was able to kill them with a single thrust. With the coiling snake formation chain behind him, Yi Xing had nothing to worry about. He only needed to face the crystal fire beasts at the front. Coupled with the dark shroud of the black hole astral facade, Yi Xing fought with the crystal fire beasts at the edge of the formation. It was almost as if he was in an unstoppable state. The lives of the crystal fire beasts were taken by him one after another. Yi Xing's sense of darkness was his sense of touch. He could sense everything around him. When he was faced with too many attacks, he would retreat into the coiling snake formation chain. Most of the time, his spear was like a dragon. Every thrust of his spear took the life of a crystal fire beast. The crystal fire beasts were terrified, and their corpses were everywhere. Not long after, a large number of crystal fire beasts' corpses were piled up outside the coiling snake formation chain like a wall of flesh. When more than half of the crystal fire beasts were killed, the rest of the crystal fire beasts were finally frightened and retreated. On the mountain peak, the 2 crystal fire beast leaders roared angrily and rushed towards Yi Xing. Yi Xing took out the spirit pattern bow again. Blue sandalwood arrow. Essence, chi, and soul as one. His aura, celestial essence, and the power of the astral facade were added to the arrow. Bush, bush, bush. 3 arrows were shot at the same time. The arrows were like meteors, piercing through the sky. One of the crystal fire beast leaders fell to the ground in the blink of an eye. Trapped in the world of darkness, it could not guard against the sudden burst of arrows that were as fast as meteors. Yi Xing had shot the bow continuously before. Later, he fought with the crystal fire beasts and killed hundreds of them. Now, he had once again unleashed his strength to the limit and shot the crystal fire beast leader. Yi Xing's celestial essence was almost exhausted. His body was also extremely tired, and his condition was greatly reduced. At this time, he could no longer shoot the same killing arrow as before. Even his close combat strength was greatly reduced. The remaining crystal fire beast leader was a huge threat to him. However, things did not develop as Yi Xing expected. The remaining crystal fire beast leader did not continue to rush towards him. Instead, it was scared out of its wits by Yi Xing's arrow. It immediately turned around and ran towards the back of the mountain peak. The first crystal fire beast leader had been killed, so it was already afraid. Now that the second crystal fire beast leader had died under Yi Xing's arrow, it certainly did not dare to attack Yi Xing again. It was deeply afraid of Yi Xing's archery. What it did not know was that Yi Xing could no longer kill it. With one crystal fire beast leader dead and another crystal fire beast leader running away, the remaining 100 or so crystal fire beasts did not dare to stay. They all ran away with the last crystal fire beast leader. Soon, they crossed the mountain peak and disappeared from Yi Xing's sight. When all the crystal fire beasts disappeared, Yi Xing returned to the array formation and sat down on the ground, gasping for breath. He quickly took out low-rank star crystals and adjusted his breathing to restore his celestial essence. At the same time, he also withdrew his astrology and calmed his mind. 4 more chapters for today. Today's monthly votes are very poor. Brothers, it's not easy to get 4 chapters a day. Please give me some monthly votes to support me. I need a breath to write. Your support is the most important. Chapter 233. This time, it took Yi Xing more than half an hour to fully restore his celestial essence. At the same time, he also recovered 80 to 90% of his spirit force. The crystal fire beasts that had been fatally injured were all dead. There were more than 100 crystal fire beasts' corpses nearby. Among them, there were 2 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 6-star martial saints, close to 20 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 5-star martial saints, over 100 crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 4-star martial saints, and crystal fire beasts that were equivalent to 2-star and 3-star martial saints. The number of crystal fire beasts' corpses alone was a huge harvest, not to mention the special flame on the mountain peak. Especially for Yi Xing, who liked the best ingredients. More than 100 crystal fire beasts meant that he would have to collect at least 500 kilograms of crystal fire beast meat, or even 2,000 kilograms. This was a priceless treasure. A low-grade storage ring couldn't possibly hold so many things, but Yi Xing had quite a few storage rings on him, so he could store the crystal fire beast's meat in different storage rings. Not to mention 5,000 or 6,000 kilograms, he could even store 5,000 or 6,000 kilograms. Yi Xing wasn't in a hurry to collect the crystal fire beast's corpses. Instead, he climbed the mountain peak in front of him and came to the special flame he sensed. There was a lake about 10 feet wide at the top of the mountain. The liquid in the lake wasn't water, but fire lava. The special flame was in the fire lava. Yi Xing activated his super brain and scanned it. His gaze penetrated the fire lava and directly saw the special flame he sensed. It was a very small flame, only the size of a green bean. However, the flame was very bright, like a star. Yi Xing used the black hole astrology. A black hole vortex appeared and absorbed the essence of the flame from all directions. Yi Xing paid attention to the changes in the special flame. As a result, the black hole vortex absorbed less and less of the essence of the fire lava, but the special flame didn't change at all. On the contrary, as the flame essence in the lava decreased, it seemed that the special flame that was the size of a mung bean was spitting out more flame essence to maintain the heat of the lava around it. This result allowed Yi Xing to conclude that this special flame was not a flame, but a fire seed. The fire seed would never be extinguished. Only the fire seed could continuously produce fire essence. No matter how much fire essence the black hole absorbed, the fire seed would not change. Although Yi Xing had long guessed that the special flame he sensed might be a fire seed, now that it was confirmed, he was still overjoyed. In the Qingyun region, the fire seed was a legend. Such a legendary treasure was right in front of him at this moment. Of course, Yi Xing was very happy. If Yi Xing could walk through fire after comprehending the fire force, then he could be considered a messenger of fire. Then, with the fire spark, he could control all the flames in this world. He was simply a god of fire. Of course, the prerequisite was that the fire seed's grade was high enough. There were strong and weak flames, and if the flame's strength exceeded the fire seed would naturally not be able to control it. However, the grade of a fire seed could be increased. Furthermore, any fire seed, when raised to the limit, could transform into a fire source. Therefore, when a fire seed was raised to a certain grade, it was not a lie to say that it could control all the flames in the world. In the Qingyun region, the fire seed was a legend. How to refine the fire seed was naturally a legend as well. Yi Xing had no idea. Even in the entire meteor sect, no one knew. Just as Yi Xing was worrying about how to refine the fire seed into his own, the fire seed automatically rose from the lava and flew towards the black hole vortex in the sky. Yi Xing was surprised. He could sense everything in the darkness and knew very well that the fire seed was not voluntarily absorbed by the black hole vortex. Clearly, the fire seed flew towards the black hole vortex on its own volition. In other words, the fire seed had spirituality. Soon, the fire seed flew into the black hole vortex and disappeared. At the same time, there was something extra in Yi Xing's body. In the center of his dantian's black hole vortex, there was an extra light. It was as small as a green bean and as bright as a star. It was the fire seed that had flown into the black hole vortex. This fire seed actually took the initiative to come to me. Is it because of the black hole astrology? Yi Xing was surprised. He was very excited about such a good thing. I don't even know how to refine the fire seed for my own use. It actually came in on its own. It seems that my luck is on its side. It really can't be stopped. In the Dantian star vortex, there was an extra fire seed. Yi Xing's sense of fire immediately went up a level and he had a deeper understanding of it. The surrounding flames were like his sense of touch. He could clearly sense everything in the flames, just like in the dark world. The ability to sense things in the dark world was given by the black hole astrology, and the ability to sense things in the fire world was given by the fire seed. It could be seen that the fire seed was almost comparable to the black hole astrology in some aspects. Yi Xing felt the fire seed in his Dantian's star vortex. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding flames danced like snakes and condensed into a bunch that fell on Yi Xing's fingertips. They changed into various shapes according to Yi Xing's will. The flames around the fire seed were naturally born from the fire seed. Their grade was lower than the fire seeds, so Yi Xing could control the surrounding flames at will. In this place, Yi Xing was simply the god of fire. To him, flames were like his sense of touch. They were a part of his body. The flames here couldn't hurt him no matter what. He was completely immune to even the tide of flames. This trip to the Fallen Star secret territory is really a great harvest. A large amount of fire crystals, a large amount of crystal fire beast meat, a third astrology, and a fire seed. And these are only from the fire sea. There are still the desert, the ice mountain, and the star palace. This is the real treasure land. When the other disciples passed through the fire sea, they blindly pursued speed. They were afraid of staying in the fire sea for even a second. No one thought that there would be treasures in the fire sea, and they are truly priceless treasures. Speaking of which, I still have to sense the crystal fire beast that was chasing me. If it weren't for it, how could I use the black hole astrology in the fire sea? If I didn't use the black hole astrology, I wouldn't have gained so much. Whether it's the third astrology or the fire seed, they are all directly related to the black hole astrology. Yi Xing thought to himself. He was indeed very grateful to the big crystal fire beast that was chasing him. This fire seed, what should I call it? Although it's small, it's bright like a shining star. Let's call it Star. Yi Xing thought for a moment and came up with a name for the fire seed. The Fallen Star secret realm was originally on a star that fell from the sky. The fire seed in the Fallen Star secret realm should have a very close relationship with the star. Calling it Star is very appropriate. Yi Xing waved his hand, and all the fire seeds scattered. He stepped on the fire and walked down the mountain. Now that he had the fire seed, it was time to harvest the corpses of the crystal fire beasts. One fire crystal after another was dug out by Yi Xing. There were a total of 157 fire crystals. Yi Xing didn't let go of any of the crystal fire beast's meat. The total weight of the meat was more than 1,000 kilograms. There was no flow of time in the storage ring, so items could be kept fresh forever. With so much crystal fire beast meat, Yi Xing could enjoy it for a very, very long time. By the time he was done, 2 hours had passed. Yi Xing had experienced another fire tide. Each fire tide was more intense than the last, but Yi Xing was completely immune to the power of the fire tide. It posed no threat to him. After he was done, Yi Xing roasted a portion of the crystal fire beast's meat. Looking at the shiny golden roasted meat, Yi Xing's appetite was aroused. He ate to his heart's content and rested for an hour before continuing on. Although he was delayed by another day, Yi Xing was now like a god in the fire sea. Walking on the fire, his speed was doubled. On the 5th day, Yi Xing only used half a day to completely walk out of the fire sea. On the 5th day, he walked out of the fire sea. Although he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the slowest. There weren't many people who had walked out earlier than Yi Xing. Most of them hadn't made it out of the fire sea yet. Some of them had even walked for an entire day. Yi Xing stood at the edge of the fire sea. In front of him was an endless desert. He looked into the distance for dozens of miles, but he didn't see any traces of other disciples. Yi Xing didn't wait here. He continued on, stepping into the desert alone. In the storage ring, there were rations and water that had been prepared beforehand. In the fire sea, Yi Xing had obtained a large amount of crystal fire beast meat, enough for him to eat for half a year. As for this desert, it would only take 4 or 5 days to pass through. Yi Xing didn't feel any pressure at all. In the fire sea, the number one enemy was fire. The crystal fire beast was only a secondary enemy. In the desert, the number one enemy was the desert scorpion. The desert scorpion was a type of demonic beast that lived in groups. There were far more of them than the crystal fire beast. A group of desert scorpion would number in the thousands, and could even number in the tens of thousands. In fact, there could be even more. Therefore, in the desert, the only way to encounter a desert scorpion was to avoid them. The desert scorpion moved in groups and could be discovered from far away. Once discovered, one would have to take a detour. The desert scorpion's range of vision was limited. As long as one was more than 3,000 meters away from them, they wouldn't be able to discover them. Yi Xing's eyesight was far superior to that of ordinary people. Especially when he looked into the distance, his eyesight was 10 times better than other martial sages. He could discover the desert scorpion from far away. Yi Xing took a detour and was unharmed. Because of his excellent eyesight, Yi Xing discovered the desert scorpion very early. He moved faster and faster in the desert. When he used the heavenly bat steps, he could only see an afterimage. With Yi Xing's speed, it would take others 4 or 5 days to pass through the desert at the fastest speed. He might only need 3 or so days to pass through the desert. However, on Yi Xing's second day in the desert, something unexpected happened. Rustling sounds came from all directions. Desert scorpion after desert scorpion appeared on the sand dunes around him. Yi Xing activated his superbrain and discovered that there were caves under the sand dunes. The desert scorpion inside the caves were densely packed. They all crawled out of the sand and appeared on the sand dunes. Second update. Begging for votes. Chapter 234. That the sand in the desert flowed frequently. The entrance of the cave that the desert scorpions dug out was quickly covered by sand. This was the nest of a group of desert scorpions. Yi Xing had been running through the desert and had accidentally barged in. There was a large number of desert scorpions below the sand dunes. Yi Xing's scanning range was limited, so he could not explore the end. He did not know how many desert scorpions there were. There were entrances to the nest of desert scorpions in all directions. Most of the entrances were covered by sand, but a small number were still exposed. However, Yi Xing could not see them from the direction he had come from. Now that he turned around, he discovered a few. Yi Xing frowned. Desert scorpions had appeared on the sand dunes within a radius of 10 li around him. There was a shocking number of desert scorpions in the nest that he had barged into. Yi Xing's initial estimate was that there were more than 100,000 desert scorpions. With more than 100,000 desert scorpions, it was a super large group of desert scorpions. In such an encirclement, even a marquis martial sage would die. Desert scorpions were Class 1 demonic beasts. Their individual combat strength was not strong, about the same as a cultivator in the late stage of the star-tempering realm. Even a half-step martial sage could kill 10 desert scorpions by himself. However, if the number of desert venomous scorpions reached 1,000, or even a martial sage, not to mention a half-martial sage, would only have death waiting for them. Desert scorpions were a huge scourge in the desert region. Every time the Fallen Star secret realm opened, the core disciples who entered would have to face them. They would have to take a detour when they saw them. Hundreds of years ago, the elders of the Fallen Star sect had done research on desert scorpions. As long as there were more than 1,000 desert scorpions, there would be a poisonous scorpion king. Ordinary desert scorpions were Class 1 demonic beasts. Poisonous scorpion kings were Class 2 demonic beasts, equivalent to martial sages. The more desert scorpions there were, the more poisonous scorpion kings there would be. Furthermore, the strongest poisonous scorpion king would be more powerful. If there were more than 100,000 desert scorpions, there would be a poisonous scorpion king that was equivalent to an intermediate martial sage. Countless ordinary desert scorpions were already scary enough. If there was a poisonous scorpion king that was equivalent to a martial sage, it would be fatal to a cultivator. Even a noble would not be able to fight against such a group of poisonous scorpions. In a one-on-one fight, it would be easy for Wang Ho to kill the poisonous scorpion king, which was equivalent to a mid-level martial sage. However, in a group of 100,000 poisonous scorpions, it was already extremely difficult for Wang Ho to deal with the endless attacks of ordinary poisonous scorpions. Now that a poisonous scorpion king, which was equivalent to a mid-level martial sage, appeared, it was enough to kill Wang Ho. From this, It could be seen that Yi Xing had fallen into a dangerous situation. Furthermore, it was an extremely dangerous situation. The sand dunes within a radius of 10 miles were filled with desert scorpions. Yi Xing couldn't rush out in a short time. Because of this, his brows were tightly furrowed. The purple feather spear appeared in his hand as he frowned. The only thing he could do now was to kill his way out. Compared to other martial sages, Yi Xing had a great advantage. In the black hole astrology, he could sense everything in the darkness. In this way, even if the attacks came from all directions, he would be clear and able to deal with them with ease. This was something that even a martial sage of the noble realm could not do. When a group of poisonous scorpions swarmed in from all directions, even a martial sage would be unable to take care of all directions. However, Yi Xing could do it. It's said that when you encounter a group of desert scorpions, you have to stay far away and take a detour. This may not apply to me. In the black hole astrology, group attacks are not a threat to me. The real threat to me should be a single strong individual, not a group of weak people. Yi Xing thought to himself. Before he was surrounded by the desert scorpions, Yi Xing had never thought of fighting them. What he agreed with was the experience passed down by the Falling Star sect. Take a detour. However, now that he was surrounded by the desert scorpions, Yi Xing thought carefully and realized that with his condition, he should not be afraid of being besieged by the desert scorpions. His furrowed brows relaxed at this moment. More and more desert scorpions gathered around Yi Xing, surrounding him in the center. Moreover, they were gradually closing in on Yi Xing. This was a super large group of poisonous scorpions. There were many poisonous scorpion kings among them. They were mixed in the dense group of poisonous scorpions, and each of them had thousands of ordinary poisonous scorpions under their command that obeyed their orders. For Yi Xing, a human warrior who had intruded into their territory, the poisonous scorpion kings naturally did not hesitate to give the order to surround and kill him. Yi Xing tightened his grip on the spear. A terrifying aura burst out, and a streak of starlight rushed out from between his eyebrows. This starlight was as black as ink. It rushed into the sky and turned into a black hole vortex. Darkness shrouded all directions. Yi Xing was like a god in the darkness. In all directions, within a radius of a few miles, all movements were within Yi Xing's perception. Moreover, the closer he was, the clearer and more precise his perception became. Da-da-da. The poisonous scorpion king gave the order. A large number of desert scorpions opened and closed their large pincers. The sounds rang out as they rushed towards Yi Xing. The two large pincers of the scorpions were incomparably sturdy, like steel or iron. Especially the poisonous scorpion king's pincers, they were like spirit weapons. Breaking gold and splitting stone was not a problem. Undercurrent surging. A flash of light. Dark spirit spear. Dark spear curtain. In the next moment, Yi Xing moved. He was as fast as lightning as he executed the dark spirit spear art. The purple feather spear in Yi Xing's hand was like a large black dragon. It carried a dark spear light as it danced in all directions. Every move that Yi Xing unleashed contained a terrifying amount of power, and the desert scorpions were all killed one after another. Undercurrent surging. The desert scorpions in front of Yi Xing formed a fan-shaped area and a large number of them died. A flash of light. The desert scorpions in front of Yi Xing were instantly killed, and a straight path of dozens of feet was formed. Dark spirit spear. This was a killing move. The desert scorpions in front of Yi Xing were all killed. Dark spear curtain. The defensive spear move was impenetrable from all directions. Yi Xing's full strength was comparable to a 6-star martial saint. Under the black hole astrology, Yi Xing's brain was like a radar. He was clear of all movements within a radius of a few miles. There was no blind spot at all. Therefore, killing these desert scorpions was as easy as mowing grass. The most important thing was Yi Xing's strong perception in the dark. This was the effect of the black hole astrology. This allowed Yi Xing to be unafraid of being besieged. No matter where the desert scorpions attacked from or how many of them there were, Yi Xing was clear of them. He was also very strong. The desert scorpions were extremely terrifying to other martial artists. Yi Xing was trapped in a group of desert scorpions. He was like a tiger in a flock of sheep, unleashing a massacre. No desert scorpions could block Yi Xing's spear. Even the Scorpion King, who was equivalent to a beginner martial saint, was hit by Yi Xing's group attack. However, there were too many desert scorpions. Although Yi Xing killed them quickly, compared to the total number of desert scorpions, the ones that Yi Xing killed were obviously nothing. No matter how fast Yi Xing killed the desert scorpions, there were always endless desert scorpions swarming towards him from all directions. The desert scorpions had low intelligence and did not know fear at all. They would not stop until they killed every single one of them. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. All of a sudden, countless sounds of air being torn apart could be heard. Yi Xing sensed his surroundings in the darkness, so he knew these sounds very well. They were the stingers of countless poisonous scorpions shooting out from their tails. The stingers were poisonous. The poison of an ordinary scorpion could kill an ordinary martial artist. The poison of the Scorpion King was very effective against a martial saint. This was the most frightening part of the desert scorpions. The densely packed stingers shot towards him from all directions. Even a noble could not block them. Although these stingers could not kill a noble, their strength would be greatly reduced if they were hit by the stingers. In the end, they would be drowned by the desert scorpions and eaten until not even their bones were left. Dark Spear Screen. Even though he could feel the stingers shooting towards him from all directions, Yi Xing's heart couldn't help but tighten. He used a defensive spear technique to defend himself from the stingers, making sure that his defense was impenetrable. Ding, ding, ding. Countless crisp sounds rang out continuously. In the blink of an eye, countless stingers that were as hard as steel were blocked by the dark spear screen and bounced off. However, Yi Xing still felt a stinging pain on his back. Even though the dark spear screen was watertight, there were too many stingers shooting towards him. Furthermore, the stingers were thin and could penetrate through any opening. As long as there was a slight opening in his defense, the stingers would naturally pass through the dark spear screen and hit Yi Xing's body. This surprised Yi Xing. After feeling the stinging pain on his back, it quickly turned into numbness. This poison was not fatal, but the key was that it would cause his muscles to stiffen and become paralyzed. As a result, his speed would be reduced, and he would eventually be killed and eaten by the desert scorpions. Yi Xing operated his celestial essence and forced the stingers out in an instant. Then he launched a series of crazy attacks, killing a large number of desert scorpions in all directions. After gaining a little time, he quickly took out a spirit cleansing pill and swallowed it. The spirit cleansing pill was a spirit-level detoxification pill. After Yi Xing swallowed it, he felt the scorpion poison in his body quickly dissolving and his back returning to normal. This made Yi Xing feel lucky. If he did not have the detoxification spirit pill, he would have died under the jaws of these desert scorpions. The effects of the spirit cleansing pill would last for a long time. During this time, Yi Xing would not be afraid of the scorpion poison and would attack the desert scorpions even more fiercely. Yi Xing kept using the dark spirit spear art to kill the desert scorpions, while using the heavenly bat steps to move. Suddenly, his heart was moved. These desert scorpions are coming in waves. They don't know what death is. In a short time, it is impossible to kill them all. This will be a long battle. The effect of practicing martial arts in actual combat is the best. This should be a great opportunity for me to improve my attainments in the dark spirit spear art and the heavenly bat steps. As Yi Xing thought about it, he felt a little happy about being surrounded by the desert scorpions. The dark spirit spear art and the heavenly bat steps were both middle-grade spirit martial arts and were very difficult to cultivate. Especially the dark spirit spear art, after reaching the small accomplishment, it would be almost impossible to improve his attainments by cultivating alone. Chapter 235. During a battle, when one's spirit was highly strained, it was the best time to hone one's martial arts. Moreover, Yi Xing now used the black hole astrology, which gave him the best conditions to cultivate the dark spirit spear art. With the best conditions and the best time to cultivate, one would naturally obtain the best results. Whether it was the dark spirit spear art or the heavenly bat steps, both had great benefits. When the poison tail needles could not threaten Yixing, the desert scorpions no longer posed any threat to Yixing. Yixing just had to consume his celestial essence and energy to fight them. If he did not gain anything, this battle would become an irritating one. Because the desert scorpions did not have any valuable treasures on them, killing them would not be of any use. However, if one regarded this battle as a process of cultivating martial arts, then the feeling would be completely different. The more Yixing fought, the braver he became. The more he fought, the happier he felt. Yixing had a lot of celestial essence and a lot of stamina. After fighting with the desert scorpions for half a day, he finally felt his strength running out. He had consumed too much celestial essence, and even his spirit started to feel tired. After killing for half a day, Yixing had killed at least tens of thousands of desert scorpions. Corpses littered the ground. However, Yixing felt that the desert scorpions around him did not seem to have reduced. They were still densely packed, giving people the feeling that they were endless. Yixing wanted to kill them all in one go, but it was impossible. He had to rest to recover his celestial essence and energy. Dark Spirit Spear. Dark Spirit Spear. Dark Spirit Spear. Yixing changed his direction and used the Dark Spirit Spear 3 times in a row, killing all the desert scorpions within a radius of several dozen feet. After using 3 killing techniques in a row, Yixing could not help but gasp for breath. However, he quickly brought out an array disc. In an instant, an array formation light shield, with Yixing as the center, covered a radius of several dozen feet, separating him from the desert scorpions. This was the array disc given by Lin Fenghua, which contained the Grand Completion Copper Wall Array. Even the Copper Wall formation could not withstand the endless attacks of the desert scorpions forever. However, it could withstand them for 4 hours without any problem. In less than an hour, Yixing recovered his celestial essence and energy. Since the array disc on the copper wall was still intact, Yixing put away the array disc and left it for the next time. As soon as the light shield disappeared, the endless desert scorpions charged towards Yixing again. The purple feather spear shone brightly like a black dragon as it soared into the sky and attacked in all directions. Another massacre began. In an instant, Yixing was surrounded by the broken limbs and remains of the desert scorpions. After another half a day of killing, another tens of thousands of desert scorpions died under Yixing's purple feather spear. Yixing used the Heavenly Bat Steps and the Dark Spirit Spear art at the same time. After a day of fighting, the desert scorpions' corpses stretched for more than 10 miles. During this time, Yixing was attacked by the stingers of the desert scorpions many times. The spirit cleansing pill could only last for about half a day. When the effect of the pill passed, Yixing was hit again and had to take a second spirit cleansing pill to detoxify the poison in his body. In the 2 massacres, Yixing had killed more than 100,000 desert poisonous scorpions. Moreover, he had killed more than 100 poisonous scorpion kings in the battle. Among them, there were several poisonous scorpion kings whose strength was equivalent to that of a 3-star martial sage. Among the 100,000 scorpions, there was a poisonous scorpion king equivalent to an intermediate martial sage. Obviously, the highest leader of this group of poisonous scorpion kings was still alive. Moreover, there were still many desert scorpions around, but they were much fewer than before. There were only about 20 to 30,000 of them left. Yixing still felt that his strength was not enough to kill all the remaining desert scorpions in one go. Therefore, after half a day of fighting, Yixing once again used the copper wall array disc to separate the scorpions and recover his star essence and energy for the second time. After a day of fierce fighting, Yixing clearly felt that his attainment in the Dark Spirit Spear art had greatly improved. When he used the Dark Spirit Spear art, it had more Dao connotation and its power was getting stronger. However, there was still no qualitative breakthrough. It was still improving in the small success realm. There was a very long distance between the small success realm and the great success realm. Only by breaking through to the great success realm would the power have a qualitative breakthrough and increase exponentially. However, Yixing believed that one day, sooner or later, his Dark Spirit Spear art would reach the great success realm. The great success realm of the middle spirit martial art was extremely rare even among the noble martial artists. Only then could the true power of the dark spirit spear art be displayed. As for the heavenly bat steps, although the improvement was not as great as the dark spirit spear art, there was still great progress. The gap between entry and small success was not as big as the gap between small success and large success. The heavenly bat steps had already reached its limit at entry level. He was only half a step away from breaking through to small success. In a short while, the small success of the heavenly bat steps was inevitable. The heavenly bat steps was a movement technique created based on the bat demonic beast. Bats were dark demonic beasts. Therefore, Yixing's cultivation of the heavenly bat steps should also have a bonus effect under the black hole star avatar. Therefore, it was reasonable for his attainment in the heavenly bat steps to improve so quickly. When he recovered his star essence and energy, it was already the second day of the battle with the scorpions. Another massacre had begun. After about an hour, Yixing's speed had suddenly increased by a large margin. He shuttled through the group of poisonous scorpions, leaving behind afterimages. His speed had reached a level where even the desert scorpions and even the poisonous scorpion king could not react in time. The small success realm of the heavenly bat steps had also merged with the wind force. His speed was so fast that he could no longer be considered the best among the intermediate martial saints. Even among the noble martial artists, he was outstanding. As he sped up, Yixing killed the desert scorpions even faster. At this rate, he would be able to kill all the desert scorpions in a little more than 2 hours. The day before, when Yixing was fighting with the desert scorpions, not a single core disciple came. But now, there were 2 core disciples who had come to this area. The 2 core disciples, one male and one female, did not see the battle between Yixing and the desert scorpions at first. Instead, they saw the corpses of the desert scorpions all over the ground. So many corpses of the desert scorpions. Senior sister is someone hunting the desert scorpions? The male core disciple asked the female core disciple beside him with a face full of shock when he saw the desert scorpions all over the ground. This female core disciple was beautiful and had skin as white as snow. She was one of the falling star's twin beauties, Xianxia. The male core disciple's name was Yang Zhixiong. His cultivation was slightly weaker than Xianxiao's. However, he was still a 5-star martial saint and did not enter the top 10 of the core disciples. Xianxia came out of the Sea of Fire earlier. When she entered the Sea of Fire, she was very close to Yixing. She thought that after she came out of the Sea of Fire, she would not be far from Yixing. Thus, she kept waiting for Yixing. However, in reality, Yixing had moved through the Sea of Fire and had already put some distance between him and Xianxia. Thus, even after Xianxia waited for a long time, she still did not see Yixing. In the end, Yang Zhixiong came out of the Sea of Fire. When he saw Xianxia, he teamed up with her to cross the desert. Although they could avoid the desert scorpions from afar, there was also a certain chance that they would barge into the desert scorpion's nest and be surrounded. The more people there were, the more hope there was for them to kill their way out. Xianxia saw that a long time had passed and that Yixing might have passed through the Sea of Fire and entered the desert. If she waited any longer, she would not be able to see Yixing. Thus, she teamed up with Yang Zhixiong and entered the desert. After walking in the desert for 3 days, they arrived here and saw a large number of corpses of the desert scorpions. Xianxiao's eyes were filled with shock. From the broken limbs of the desert scorpions, she could tell that they had indeed died at the hands of a cultivator. However, which disciple had the strength to kill so many desert scorpions? Even a marquis would not be able to do so, right? Xianxia said, "It should be a team. It might be eldest senior brother and the others. Let's follow the corpses of the desert scorpions to take a look." Yang Zhixiong nodded. He also thought that the desert scorpions were killed by a team. Furthermore, it was a team formed by eldest senior brother Marn, second senior brother Qi Jingyang, and third senior brother Li Yuanqing. This was because Maren, Qi Yingyang, and Li Yuanqing were all 6-star martial saints. Only a team of 3 6-star martial saints could kill so many desert scorpions. something that even a marquis would not be able to do. He Hongjiao and Yang Zhixiong followed the path of the desert scorpion's corpses. After walking for more than 10 li and climbing over a sand dune, they finally saw the battle scene. Among the densely packed desert scorpions, there was only a young man holding a spear and fighting. Above the young man was a pitch-black star. It was unknown what kind of star it was. He Hongjiao and Yang Zhixiong stood on the sand dune, almost petrified. These desert scorpions were actually killed by one person. Furthermore, this person was the only inner disciple who had entered the falling star secret realm, Yixing. How is this possible? The two of them exclaimed at the same time, not daring to believe it. The two of them were still about 5 li away from Yixing. As martial saints, their eyesight was very strong. Naturally, they could see Yixing's appearance clearly. A 3-star martial saint had actually killed so many desert scorpions. The corpses stretched for more than 10 li. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. The two of them stood on the sand dune like statues, watching the battle between Yixing and the desert scorpions several li away. They saw Yixing's spear move like a dragon, shooting in all directions. The desert scorpions would definitely die if they were hit by the spear. No matter which direction the desert scorpions attacked Yixing from, Yixing calmly killed them one by one. It was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. On the sand dune, Yang Zhixiong was dumbfounded. After a while, he said, "Junior brother Yi is surrounded by the desert scorpions. We saw it. Should we help him?" He Hongjiao glanced around indifferently and said, "Didn't you see how many desert scorpions he killed? How can the remaining desert scorpions do anything to him?" Yang Zhixiong said, "Junior brother Yi killed so many desert scorpions. He must be mentally and physically exhausted. Perhaps this is the time when he needs help." He Hongjiao said, "Aren't you afraid that you will die in the mouths of the desert scorpions before you can meet up with junior brother Yi?" Yang Zhixiong frowned and said, "Junior brother Yi can kill so many desert scorpions that their corpses litter the ground. How can I die in their mouths?" He Hongjiao smiled coldly and said, "Do you think that you can also keep your eyes and ears open and not be afraid of enemies attacking you from all directions?" Yang Zhixiong was stunned and immediately felt speechless. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 236. He Hongjiao said seriously, "Junior brother Yang, if you want to save junior brother Yi, the most important thing right now is to find reinforcements. Quickly go find the other senior brothers and junior brothers. I'll stay here. If junior brother Ye's physical strength is not enough, I'll be able to rescue him since I'm stronger than you." Yang Zhixiong thought for a moment and said, "Senior sister He, it's dangerous to go into the desert scorpions to save people. It's better if you go find reinforcements. I'll stay here and look for an opportunity to rescue him." He Hongjiao was the dream lover of many falling star sect disciples, and Yang Zhixiong was no exception. He could not bear to give her such a dangerous job. However, He Hongjiao had other intentions for staying behind. She had finally found Yixing, so she naturally wanted to kill Yixing. Of course, she had to send Yang Zhixiong away. He Hongjiao frowned and said, "I told you to find reinforcements, so go find them. Why are you so long-winded and annoying? Go." Yang Zhixiong was scolded by He Hongjiao and immediately lost his mind. Although he did not want He Hongjiao to be in danger, he did not dare to go against He Hongjiao's wishes. Yang Zhixiong said, Then senior sister He, be careful. Don't go up for the time being. Wait for me to find reinforcements, then go up to save junior brother Yi." He Hongjiao waved her hand impatiently and said, "Go quickly." After Yang Zhixiong left, He Hongjiao's expression changed and a murderous intent appeared in her eyes. Like a cat looking at a mouse, she stared at Yixing from afar. Her lips curled up, revealing a sinister smile. The falling star secret territory was very vast, and it was difficult to find people scattered. She had asked Yang Zhixiong to find reinforcements, but Yang Zhixiong would not return for a while. As for her, as long as she killed Yixing during this period of time, destroyed the evidence, and then said that Yixing died in the mouth of the desert scorpion without leaving behind a corpse, the matter would be flawless, and no one would be able to blame her. Of course, the best result was that Yi Xing died under the siege of the desert scorpions. This way, it would save her a lot of effort. Moreover, she would be happy to see Yi Xing being eaten by the desert scorpions until there was nothing left. Unfortunately, her wish was obviously not fulfilled. Under Yi Xing's attack, the desert scorpions became fewer and fewer, and Yi Xing remained unscathed. Looking at his attack power, it seems to be about the same as mine. It's just that his reaction is extremely sharp. He seems to know which direction the desert scorpions attack from like the back of his hand. Therefore, the encirclement of the desert scorpions does not threaten him at all. He Hongjiao's brows gradually furrowed as she thought to herself, looks like it won't be long before he'll be able to kill all of these desert poisonous scorpions. Looks like I'll have to personally take action in order to take his dog life. Time passed, second after second. With every second that passed, more and more desert scorpions died under Yi Xing's gun. The number of desert scorpions dwindled. Finally, when the poisonous scorpion king, which was equivalent to a 4-star martial sage, was killed by Yi Xing with a single spear strike, the entire group of poisonous scorpions in the desert were wiped out. Yi Xing was still immersed in the cultivation of the dark spirit spear art and the heavenly bat steps. He wished he could have more desert scorpions to kill and hone his martial arts attainments. However, these were just thoughts. He had taken the last spirit cleansing pill during the 3rd battle with the poisonous scorpions. Without the spirit cleansing pill to neutralize the poison of the scorpion stinger, Yi Xing did not dare to fight with the desert scorpions again. Yi Xing withdrew the black hole astral avatar and sat on the ground. He closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing, recovering his celestial essence and energy. He Hongjiao walked out from behind a distant hill. Silently, like a ghost, she approached Yi Xing. Senior sister He, what a coincidence. When He Hongjiao was still 1,000 meters away from Yi Xing stood up and turned to look at He Hongjiao. In the battle between Yi Xing and the poisonous scorpions, everything within a radius of a few miles was within his dark sense. Yi Xing was well aware of the arrival of He Hongjiao and Yang Zhixiong. After Yi Xing killed all the desert scorpions, He Hongjiao went to hide behind the sand dune. Yi Xing naturally did not want to expose his powerful perception. Instead, he waited for He Hongjiao to show herself. He Hongjiao thought that after Yi Xing killed all the desert scorpions, he would be less vigilant and focus on recovering his celestial essence. Therefore, she planned to sneak up on Yi Xing and give Yi Xing a fatal attack to complete the task given to her by Hua Tianshu. In this way, she could save the forbidden weapon soul-severing shuttle given to her by Hua Tianshu. The soul-severing shuttle was a forbidden weapon equivalent to a middle-grade spirit weapon. It was extremely powerful and precious. Even Hua Tianshu only had a few of them. But now, the sneak attack plan was ruined. He Hongjiao stared at Yi Xing and said, "You're quite vigilant." Yi Xing looked indifferent and said, "Senior sister He, do you want to team up with me and cross the desert together?" He Hongjiao's eyes lit up. It was not a bad idea to team up with Yi Xing to cross the desert. First, she could eliminate Yi Xing's vigilance and then give him a fatal blow when he was unprepared. However, before He Hongjiao could agree, Yi Xing had already said, "Junior brother, I like to be alone. If we want to form a team, senior sister can find someone else." He Hongjiao's face turned green. It turned out that Yi Xing was deliberately playing with her. He Hongjiao said with a cold face, "I'm looking for junior brother because I want to tell junior brother something." Yi Xing nodded, "Let's hear it." On the surface, Yi Xing appeared relaxed, but in reality he was on high alert. When he entered the Falling Star secret realm, Hua Tianshu showed killing intent to him. Yi Xing knew very well that He Hongjiao did not come with good intentions. He Hongjiao smiled sweetly. Her whole person was like a blooming flower, extremely beautiful. However, at certain times, beauty often meant danger. Just as He Hongjiao's smile was at its brightest, she also launched a fatal blow at Yi Xing. "I'm here to take your dog life." He Hongjiao's cold voice and a few hot and sharp scarlet rays appeared at the same time. Low-grade spiritual martial art, scorching sun sword technique. He Hongjiao's Scorching Sun Sword technique had already reached the Great Completion realm. Moreover, she had walked a long way in the Great Completion realm. With this Scorching Sun Sword technique, she was ranked 4th among the top 10 core disciples with a cultivation of mid-level 5-star Vortex realm. She was ranked 2nd only to Marin, Qi Jingyang, and Li Yuanqing, 3 6-star martial saints. She was ranked higher than some core disciples who were at late-level 5-star Vortex realm and peak-level 5-star Vortex realm. When the Scorching Sun Sword technique was used, the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Moreover, when He Hongjiao attacked, a ray of starlight rushed out from between her eyebrows and turned into a flaming star in the sky. The flaming star power that descended caused the power of the Scorching Sun Sword technique to multiply. It was a superior astrological sign, Earth Fire Star. The power of He Hongjiao's astrological sign was not inferior to Zi Shanho's. He Hongjiao unleashed her full combat strength and suddenly attacked. The distance of over 1,000 meters was a short distance to a martial saint. In the blink of an eye, a few rays of Scorching Sun Sword technique had already arrived beside Yixing. They blocked all of Yixing's escape routes from all angles and could kill Yixing with one strike. The corners of He Hongjiao's mouth curled up, revealing a trace of a smile. She believed that her sudden attack with all her strength would definitely be effective. He Hongjiao felt that she still had a chance to kill Yixing without using the soul-severing shuttle. She was in a very good mood. The corners of Yixing's mouth also curled up. If it was before he obtained the fire seed, he would have had to block the fire element attack. However, now, in front of the Starfire seed, the power of He Hongjiao's Scorching Sun Sword technique, which had reached the Great Completion realm, was nothing. The thing that Yixing was least afraid of now was fire element attacks. In the face of He Hongjiao's Scorching Sun Sword technique, Yixing did not dodge. He only circulated his celestial essence to defend against the sharp aura of the Scorching Sun Sword technique to prevent his body from being injured. In an instant, the Scorching Sun Sword technique struck Yixing's body. The sharp aura was blocked by Yixing's celestial essence. As for the power of the flames, when it struck Yixing's body, it disappeared without a trace like a clay ox entering the sea. The starfire seed in Yixing's Dantian's star vortex trembled slightly, as if it had opened a bloody mouth. In an instant, it devoured the power of the flames that had struck Yixing's body. It hit. He Hongjiao was overjoyed, but then she was shocked. Yixing seemed to be fine. He Hongjiao was shocked. Even a 6-star martial sage would not dare to stand still and take the attack of her Scorching Sun Sword technique. However, Yixing took the attack of her Scorching Sun Sword technique head-on and came out unscathed. Senior sister, murdering a fellow disciple is a crime punishable by death. Since you're talented, a pillar of the Falling Stars faction, and you were ordered by Hua Tianshu, I can pretend that nothing happened this time. But don't let it happen again. Yixing's eyes revealed a cold light. He walked toward He Hongjiao and said, "If you dare to offend me again, even if you are as beautiful as a fairy, you won't be able to live." He Hongjiao's expression changed. She raised her hand and a black shuttle appeared in her hand. It was the soul-severing shuttle, a forbidden weapon equivalent to a middle-grade spiritual weapon, which could kill a noble. When He Hongjiao took out the soul-severing shuttle, Yixing's hair stood on end. This was an extremely terrible forbidden weapon. Yixing suddenly felt a strong threat of death, and his hair stood on end. At the same time, his killing intent toward He Hongjiao exploded. "I want you to die." He Hongjiao shouted. She drove the soul-severing shuttle and threw it toward Yixing. The soul-severing shuttle, which was half a palm long, suddenly shone brightly. It bloomed with a bright black light and became more than 3 meters long. With a terrible power that could destroy mountains, it was going to kill Yixing in an instant. Eyes of blue clouds, blue eyes, black hole astrology. The soul-severing shuttle was too terrible. In an instant, Yixing used all his trump cards to save his life. Suddenly, a blue vortex appeared in his eyes, attacking He Hongjiao's mind. The black hole astrology suddenly covered the darkness in all directions, allowing Yixing to feel everything around him. Yixing's hands did not stop. At the same time, he took out the bronze wall formation disc. The bronze wall formation disc, which was completed, instantly formed a formation light shield, covering Yixing. In the other hand, he took out the purple feather spear. In an instant, the spear was like a dragon, waving in all directions. He performed a defensive move, Dark Spear Curtain. Yixing's legs at the same time burst out with a strong force. He ran the small success realm of the heavenly bat steps and integrated the wind force. His whole body was like lightning, dodging to the side. In the blink of an eye, Yixing did 5 things at the same time. Blue eyes affected He Hongjiao's mind. The black hole astrology allowed Yixing to perceive everything around him, the bronze wall formation defense, the dark spear curtain as a double defense, and the heavenly bat steps to dodge. Thank you to Wuyuan Buddhist World for the tip of 10,000 coins. Congratulations to Wuyuan Buddhist World for becoming the 7th leader of the Arrow God. I can't update at home. I updated from 5 to 7. I didn't upload it successfully, so I went to the internet cafe outside to update. I have already updated 3 times. I will update in the internet cafe. I will continue to write when I go back. If I can update at home, I will update 4 times. If I still can't update at home, I can only update 3 times today. Please warm my heart. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.